Now this one I need the button. Okay, Holly. While we're behind the scenes, you can have it checked out. Otherwise, go ahead and open this meeting on January 7th, 2015, Oceanside, the City Council, Harbor District, and CDC. And
Mayor Witt.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Here.
Councilmember Kern.
Here.
Councilmember Feller.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez is absent.
Go to our city attorney, please, for closed session.
Thank you. The council will be meeting to discuss item 1 on the closed session agenda, conference with labor negotiator involving the Oceanside Police Officers Association. Item 2A on the agenda is conference with real property negotiator involving the portion of the Hamar Drive right-of-way south of State Route 78. The agenda states Highway 76, but there's been an addendum that was timely posted to correct that to 78. West of College Boulevard, the negotiating party, City of Oceanside and CBS Outdoor, negotiator for the city, Doug Enno. Under negotiations are price and terms for the use of the real property. That's all.
Adjourn to closed session.
Oh, here's
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. We had changed our times and set up for the council meetings. I'm sure some of you found out about it. We used to start at 2 o'clock for a closed session and work on through. We changed closed sessions at 3:30 and the first meeting at 5, and the second part at 6 o'clock. Maybe that'll help some of the people that work and get here a little later. Hope you understand. If you have issues with the time, we always like to hear about it, good, bad, or indifferent. With that, roll call, please.
Mayor Wood.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Councilmember Kern.
Here.
Councilmember Feller.
Here.
Thank you. With that, the first half will go with it, and Mr. Clerk, go ahead.
Yes, consent calendar items 3 through 8.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion, or do we have any people pulling into these items?
No public on those items.
I'm going to pull item number 8, but if you'll make the motion for the remainder, I appreciate it.
I'd move approval. I didn't hear a second, though.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you very much. Go ahead. It is speakers on items 3 through 7.
No speakers on those items.
If I see none from the council, please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you very much. I pulled item number 8 for a couple of reasons, if I may. Do we have a staff member that's putting this or be available on this? Jane.
Good afternoon.
First off, I wanted to call somebody up so I could introduce you to the entire world here live on TV. That's not a good time to trip and fall, by the way, on the TV.
Oh, I'll try to remember.
Anyhow, Jane, I appreciate you coming up. I know we have the attachments here. I was going to approve it, but I had a couple of questions of you, mainly that some things that I didn't know about, like we've pulled a lot of money, particularly for studying certain things in Oceanside, like Moral Hills, RDO at 78, and the Melrose extensions for Sioux. I want to make sure if that money or those monies, are they still been pulled to be used on those, or have they been used yet? Can we pull those back? That's the kind of questions I wanted to know about.
Okay. I can address the Melrose extension first. Currently, we only have a budget for the Melrose extension for 14-15. There's no funds set aside in any reserves. This year it is for Melrose Link design. The funding source for the project is thoroughfare projects or funds. So the problem with that is that we can only use them for thoroughfare projects. So there's $1.2 million in that budget for this year.
How about the other ones, like I say, Moral Hills issue, there was somebody...
More of those, there's nothing set aside for that in reserves. There is a small contract as it relates to Morrow Hills that Water Utilities has for $148,000.
Thank you very much. And the other one, I think, maybe the rest of the council had any questions, would be RDO at 78.
I'm not aware of any reserves on that account.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Other than that, I'll make a motion to approve item number 8.
Second.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from the council? If not, I see none, and thank you for your time. And there you go, right in front of everybody on live TV. Yeah. Thank you very much, and good seeing you. With that, ladies and gentlemen, please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. 9, when you get a chance.
Yes, item number 9 is approval to reject all bids for the construction of the Robert A. Weiss Water Filtration Plant Solids Handling Lagoons project and authorization for the city engineer to call for new bids.
Thank you very much. Jason, good evening. How you doing? After you fix the computer.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. I'm doing well, thank you. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm going to do a little bit of background on this for our new council member, Mr. Lowry, and I'll try to make it quick. Robert Weiss Filtration Plant is located outside of our city limits, just off of Gopher Canyon Road, on our way to Highway 15. The plant was originally constructed back in 1980. It's expanded in the mid-90s. It has a rated capacity of approximately 25 million gallons per day. The plant takes raw water from San Diego County Water Authority, treats it, and then sends it down here to the residents of Oceanside. This here is a bird's eye view of the facility and lagoons as they currently exist. The treatment process requires the use of these solid handling lagoons as part of our treatment process. The existing lagoons are constructed of concrete, asphalt, and gravel. They are outdated and no longer perform efficiently or effectively. The proposed lagoons here shown in this conceptual view, the new lagoons are constructed of concrete, have been designed to increase efficiency and enhance our ability to comply with our drinking water permits. The project generally consists of new concrete lagoons, pumping station, and associated piping and valves. We will continue to perform public outreach on this project to the affected residents around the facility. Our engineer's estimate is approximately $2.1 million, and our adopted budget is $4.7 million. Now that 4.7 includes other projects, other phases outside of this phase 1, which is the solids handling lagoons. Now to the meat of the story here. On September 24th, City Council approved plans and specifications and authorized city engineer to call for bids. Water Department moved forward with the bidding procedure, and on December the 2nd, received one bid in the amount of $5.7 million, which exceeded our engineer's estimate and also exceeded our budget. Discussions with several other contractors that decided not to bid, and also the one contractor that did bid, we were able to identify a few issues that were in our plans and specs. We've made those modifications, and we're bringing the project back here for rebidding. With that being said, staff is requesting the council reject the one bid that we had and approve the plans and specifications, authorize the city engineer to call for bids. And that concludes my presentation.
Jason, thank you. Take a seat at sidebar, and public on this.
No public.
Back to the council. Councilmember Kern, please.
Move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
With that, city manager, your light's on.
I just had one interesting question.
Well, you can bring it up now before we vote.
All right, Jason, here it is. Is the elevation of the plant high enough to serve all of our reservoirs with gravity flow? I notice there's a pump there. Do we need it, or can we serve it with gravity flow?
Yes, the flows coming out of the plant to the city are by gravity flows. The pump station is strictly to get the return water from the pond area back up to the top of the plant.
Thank you. With that, please vote.
Motion approved 5-0.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jason. Let's go through the city council reports.
Yes, Mayor Wood.
My report is going to be, I went to the East Coast to see my family and grandchildren, and it was darn right cold, and I'm glad to be back in California. And hopefully everybody will have a wonderful New Year's for 2015 for us on the council and you out there in the audience. So that's all I have for right now.
Deputy Mayor Lowry.
Well, I had a nice tour of the library, and as the new council liaison, that was pretty interesting. The library is ready to do some really great projects to make it more attractive to people who live in Oceanside, but also to make it more accessible to people who want to go online and download books and other items. So that was really a good learning exercise for me. Also, I was happy to go to my first North County Transit District Board meeting, and that was really interesting. They have a lot of money. We made a few decisions. I can't remember what they were, something about smoking and drinking. Anyway, that's what I've been doing. Happy New Year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Feller.
Thank you. We had a great Christmas and New Year with all the young ones that we have, and family's a great thing to be around this time of year. We have coming up a couple of things that might be of some interest. The city's got the NAACP, and the city are sponsoring a breakfast, and it will announce the Martin Luther King Civic Award at that breakfast. That's the 19th of the month. You can see or talk to Marjorie Pierce here at the city for tickets. There's a new pastor coming to St. John's Missionary Baptist Church. They've had a run of kind of bad luck there with their pastors, and there's a new pastor coming, Kadri Webb, Reverend, and that installation is on the 18th of the month. Just got news this morning that Coach John Carroll from Oceanside High School is stepping down as the coach for Oceanside High School. He had 247 victories in his 26 years there, 2 state titles, 7 consecutive CIF titles, 13 total, and 21 straight games to the semis. So he's going to be missed. I know that came as quite a shock to a lot of people. I thought we had great news this morning from our my brain slipped a cog here, our redevelopment, not redevelopment, economic development, Tracy Bolden. Oh my gosh. Anyway, we are considered one of the best cities in the whole country, in the top, I think it was 50 in the whole country for places to work and to find a job. So there's something going right here in Oceanside. We have done some correct things. And the last thing is I'd like to wish all our residents a happy and blessed New Year.
Councilmember Kern.
Thank you. Actually, I kind of took some time off for the holiday, so I have nothing to report unless you want to hear of golf scores. So, but thank you.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. We had another new business in Oceanside. It's the Noodle House. Don't know if you had a chance to visit yet. They had a great, grand pre-opening. Basically hosted a lot of folks, and they have a lot of kids working for them. And they really look excited about this new business. It's over at the, I should say, the new Target Center in Oceanside. So that was, it's really great to have businesses interested in Oceanside. Also attended the Sandag meeting on behalf of the mayor. The main item on the agenda was the election of the new vice chair. As the person who was in line for the vice chair, which then becomes chair, the term after, was not reelected. So we actually had, and traditionally, it's usually the chair becomes, it's usually a someone from a smaller city, which kind of equalizes the kind of the power balance of Sandag. And North County was up. Actually, South County was first up, and because the South County person did not get reelected, North County was next in line. And so Councilwoman Lisa Hebner was strongly recommended by the committee, and unfortunately, she did not get elected to be the next vice chair. So North County, we basically lost our slot. And interesting also, we had several North County cities vote against North County being possibly the next chair. So that was really, really unfortunate. I will say that the county supervisor, Ron Roberts, is the new vice chair. This is actually a first time, I think, in history that we have like a super agency which has multiple number of votes. All the votes are weighted in terms of the size of the city, the populations, that kind of a thing. And so it's really unfortunate that North County voted that we're not no longer in the running, and I believe East County is next, would be next in the kind of the rotation. So we're going to have to wait another, up to 6 years or something to get reconsidered. But I will say that several of us in North County cities did support Lisa Hebner, who has been a council member for Solana Beach, and who's also an attorney for, I want to say 16 years, been very, very active in Sandag. So, but I am looking forward to a really good year at Sandag. We were talking about mass transit and some other ideas, so that's really wonderful. And I had a really great Christmas with family, my parents, my mom and dad, and of course my siblings. And I just want to say, if my dad can hear me, love you, Dad. Thank you. That's my report.
That's all.
Real quick, we can take some other items until the 6 o'clock meeting, which are time certain. On the other hand, one of my first ones will be item 24 on the Oceanside kitty regulating and retail sales of dogs and cats. I can bring that up, but I want to find out, are you expecting people to be here for the 6 o'clock meeting on that, or can we go forward now? Anybody know? I mean, we can take it early, you can go home, but like I say, it's normally at 6 o'clock. With that, I'm going to move to item 24, please. City Attorney. John, if you're a little slow, I'll let the cameraman set up. I imagine you're here for 24.
Honorable Mayor and Council, I know you've discussed this item on 2 different occasions for several hours and had extensive public testimony, and there's an additional speakers who are going to speak tonight, so I'm going to be fairly brief in my comments. As you know, on December 3rd of last year, I was given direction by the council to draft and present a proposed ordinance to regulate the sale of dogs and cats at pet stores within the city of Oceanside. I have in that process reviewed virtually every ordinance in the United States that's been adopted by local cities. I think there's about 70, give or take, in all, including about 16 that have been adopted in California in various cities. And the ordinances, generally speaking, share the same characteristics. Using the police power of the cities, the ordinances prohibit the retail sale of dogs and cats unless the dog or cat is obtained from a public animal shelter or a contractor working on behalf of a public agency, or a rescue organization. In some of the cities, a minority, for instance in Cook County, Illinois, and in Sunrise, Florida, those ordinances allow the pet stores to obtain the dog or cat from a breeder that does not share the characteristics of a puppy mill or kitten mill. So in those cities, they allow hobby breeders effectively to source their dogs through the pet stores. But that is certainly in a minority. There's several purposes behind these local ordinances. First, they're based upon concerns about the conditions at the facilities that engage in the mass breeding of dogs and cats. Investigations concerning these so-called puppy mills have been conducted by several organizations, including the United States Humane Society, the ASPCA, the Companion Animal Protection Society, and many others. And in our staff report for this item, we've included links to all of those various reports. I'm not going to reiterate those tonight, as the council's been provided copies of those in the past. Just some basic understanding of the facts. According to the U.S. Humane Society, 2014 conditions, there's about 2,121 Class A commercial breeders in the United States and 755 Class B brokers who transport those dogs or cats to retail sales outlets. 17 of the Class A breeders are in California, 19 of the Class B are also in California. There's over 100,000 female dogs that are kept for breeding at these licensed facilities throughout the United States. The problems that have been documented by the Humane Society and others include the stacking of cages that has the potential to lead to sanitation problems, the lack of veterinary care, the potential lack of clean water and food and basic grooming that causes sometimes minor injuries and infections to fester and to become more severe. Again, the reports cited in the staff report for this item provide detailed examples of those cases. The second public interest that's served by many of these local ordinances really represent an effort to reduce the pet overpopulation problems in the local communities. As this council is aware, Oceanside contracts with the San Diego Humane Society to provide state-mandated animal control and sheltering services. Those services cost the city about $850,000 a year. Under the contract between the city and the Humane Society takes in about 3,000 strays under the Oceanside contract alone. 7% of those animals, my understanding is, are euthanized. That 3,000 figure does not count surrenders from owners. When the surrenders are added in, the Humane Society Oceanside campus is taking in about 5,000 dogs and cats a year. So there's a large supply of dogs and cats readily available at the Humane Society in Oceanside for adoption. And while the Humane Society is doing a very good job having those adoptions occur, there are still several hundred dogs and cats a year that are not being adopted at the Oceanside campus. So that's just briefly by way of background some of the public interests that are advanced by many of these ordinances. I want to take a few moments to go through the key features of this ordinance. The basic prohibition is set forth in the draft ordinance that no pet store or pet store operator shall engage in the retail sale of dogs or cats on or after the effective date of this ordinance codified in this chapter unless the dog or cat was obtained by the pet store or operator from an animal shelter. The retail sale is authorized by subsection C, or one of the exemptions in subsection B of that same section applies. We've broadly defined the term animal shelter, as you can see. This is the definition in the draft ordinance. An animal shelter for purposes of this chapter means a public animal shelter operated by a city or county or other public agency, or an entity operating under contract with any city or county or other public agency. So that could be any animal shelter within this county, within the state, theoretically within other states as well. But animal shelter is also defined to include humane societies or duly incorporated rescue organization meeting the definition. We understand we have an existing pet store in Oceanside, and we've attempted to deal with that issue. Unlike many of the ordinances that have been adopted, this ordinance proposes effectively a grandfathering in, so it will not apply to the existing pet store until September 1st, 2015. That assumes the ordinance is introduced tonight. If it is introduced and then subsequently adopted at your next public hearing, it would not become effective for 30 days thereafter, and then there's approximate 6-month period for the existing store to become in compliance with the provisions of this chapter. We've included, like many of the other ordinances, some exemptions. So a person or establishment that sells dogs or cats that were bred and reared on the premises of the person or establishment would not be covered. So a breeder that is involved in breeding lawfully on their own premises and transferring or disposing and selling the dog from their own premises where the dog is born or reared or kitten, that would be exempt from this ordinance. A person or establishment that engages in the retail sale of dogs or cats that are obtained from a non-commercial breeding establishment is proposed to be exempted. Now, I understand there may have been 1 or 2 emails that were sent about that exemption today. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit later in this presentation. But just for purposes of the ordinance, the non-commercial breeding establishment is meant to include a person-firm partnership, as you can see from the definition, that has sold, transferred, or given away all or parts of 3 or fewer litters for less than 20 dogs or less than 20 cats during the preceding 12 months. Again, this concept appears in some ordinances, and it's not in any of the California ordinances that I've reviewed, but it is within the ordinances that are being litigated today in Cook County, Illinois, and Sunrise, Florida. These are not the exact same words. The concept, though, is effectively similar. There's some additional exemptions, of course. A publicly operated animal shelter, using the same definition, that's why it's capitalized, is exempt from the provisions of the ordinance, as is a private humane society or duly incorporated organization, as noted in this slide. And of course, an animal shelter can operate in conjunction with the pet store and not run afoul of the provisions of this chapter. Okay, so that effectively is an overview of the ordinance. There obviously are some legal issues that are out there that I've summarized in the staff report, and I'll briefly address now. There is pending litigation on local ordinances that are similar to this throughout the United States. As we've discussed in the report, there's 4 pending cases. They involve Cook County, Illinois, Phoenix, Arizona, Rhode Island, and Sunrise, Florida. And I've talked about the status of the litigation in the staff report. I think the most important point to make is that there has not been a final judgment in any of these cases, so there is no precedential authority that we can draw from any of those cases at this time. So there is a significant risk, I would say, of litigation on our ordinance, in my opinion. And none of these cases at this point are going to give us definitive guidance, so there is always going to be some risk moving forward. Of course, we've tried to draft the ordinance in a way that minimizes that risk. We expect, as in the other 4 cases, the issues to be raised will be similar. It is likely that Commerce Clause violations will be alleged by prospective plaintiffs. And as we've set forth in the staff report, the test that's been adopted by the United States Supreme Court on a Commerce Clause claim generally looks to see whether or not the regulation discriminates against interstate commerce when its effect is to favor in-state economic interests over out-of-state interests. When that occurs, the court has generally struck down the regulation. On the other hand, when a law only has indirect effects on interstate commerce and regulates in an even-handed way, the court looks to whether the state's interest, or the city's interest in this case, is a legitimate interest, and whether the burden on interstate commerce clearly exceeds the presumed benefits of the statute. I can't tell you, as I said, that any one of those decisions has resulted in upholding of a local ordinance because they haven't proceeded to judgment, but there was a case in 2013 that's helpful. That is a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal, which we would be subject to in all likelihood if this case went through the federal court system. And in that case, the foreign producers of foie gras challenged the California Health and Safety Code section that banned the sale of any product in the state that was a result of force feeding a bird. Using the test that I mentioned earlier, the Commerce Clause test, the court found that the law did not violate the Commerce Clause. The court determined that the law was not discriminatory because it bans the sale of products that were produced both in-state and out-of-state, and the law created a general prohibition on the sale of a product produced through a particular method. The court next looked to whether the presumed benefits of the statute exceeded any incidental burden on commerce. And ultimately, the court upheld that statute due to the state's legitimate interest in preventing animal cruelty, even though that force-feeding process was not in violation of federal law. If the ordinance is adopted in this case, I think the city has a defensible position that the draft ordinance does not violate the Commerce Clause, but again, that there's some uncertainty with a lack of clear precedent. In our case, the law bans the sale of all dogs and cats unless obtained from an animal shelter rescue group, at this point a non-commercial breeder, although the council has the authority to remove that. And it bans it regardless of whether the dogs or cats, regardless of the location of where they're obtained. So a pet store can obtain dogs or cats from in-state or out-of-state, provided it's from a permissible source under the code. The law does not, therefore, discriminate against out-of-state interests. The issue then will be whether the presumed benefits of this statute outweigh any incidental burden on commerce. And based on the Ninth Circuit's previous decision, it appears the city's interest in preventing animal cruelty, even from breeders that meet USDA requirements, is a legitimate interest. It also appears the city has a legitimate interest in increasing the adoption rate at the San Diego Humane Society campus in Oceanside. We're likely to see equal protection claims that are raised as well. In ordinances that regulate economic activity, not based on race or religion or other some protected classification, are subject to what's known as a rational basis test. And in that case, the court looks to whether there is a reasonably conceivable set of facts that could provide a rational basis for this classification. Using this test, the California Court of Appeals upheld Los Angeles' mandatory spay and neuter statute based upon the stated purpose of controlling its pet overpopulation problems and promoting the public health and safety of the community. Those same considerations would appear to support the ordinance in this case. So in conclusion, the draft ordinance is prepared for your introduction. I do believe litigation is likely. We've drafted it in a way to reduce that risk as much as possible, given the lack of clear precedent directly on point. We've included the 6-month amortization clause to allow the existing store to comply with the proposed terms of the ordinance. That is not the case in any of the 4 pending lawsuits, I should tell you. Those cases became effective immediately, so this is a little bit different than those others. We've added a definition for a non-commercial breeding exemption, allowing those breeders who produce 3 or fewer litters or less than 20 dogs to supply these animals for sale at retail. I know you've received hundreds of emails on that topic today. I should say that exemption came up in conversations between myself and the Humane Society. I'm not sure that they stand behind that exemption today. I think they've rethought that and perhaps changed their opinion. I've included in my recommendation for a couple of reasons. As I've said, there's some uncertain legal landscape, and I include recommending it because it potentially mitigates the economic impacts to the existing store owner. It also allows the source of the animals to be sold from non-industrial facilities, and one of the main concerns behind this ordinance are the industrial facilities. But having said that, you're free to remove it if you see fit. It's a policy matter really for your discussion. It doesn't render the defense of any lawsuit in the future fatal. I just think it's helpful to include. And I'll let you have that discussion now that I'm concluding my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about this.
Thank you, John, appreciate it. Mr. Clerk, public?
Yes, we have no members of the public who wish to speak on this item. I'm going to call you forward two at a time. There's two podiums, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the council. Just as a reminder, we do have a decorum policy in place for the council, so please try to utilize the most respectful tone possible, but please bring your points to the council in a manner that you deem fit. At this point in time, I'm going to call forward Alicia Osterman and Jasmine Ramirez. You can come forward to speak to the council.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, while you're doing that. There's two podiums. They both work. If somebody's talking, go to the second podium to be set up. That's fine. We appreciate it. And speak into the mic.
So I came here, hi, I'm Jasmine Ramirez. I came here to speak up on the side of Oceanside Puppy. Many here seem to have come tonight to argue that putting this ban in ordinance is going to alleviate the amount of animals currently at the shelter, and that it'll stop puppy mills from existing. But that cannot actually be proven. The reality is that banning of such stores would only mean that the regulated sale of puppies will be at a halt. More and more people will be turning to online sales to purchase their pets, where they'll be faced with unscrupulous sellers that only care about making a profit and not about the welfare of the animals. Pet stores not only have the strictest guidelines to follow when it comes to housing and caring for the animals, but they must also meet and exceed the medical demands of the puppies, even as the puppies have left their premises. People who purchase puppies at pet stores do so because they are looking for a particular puppy that meets their demands, puppies that they could not have acquired otherwise. Yes, the shelter still gives puppies, but a shelter pet is not the right fit for everyone. People have the right to choose where they wish to purchase their puppies, and setting a ban in place would only mean that to please the wishes of a few, the rights of others will be taken away. I urge the City Council to truly think about their decision. It is much simpler to have those who do not wish to have pet stores around, have them to stop going to the actual pet stores than taking the rights of several people that actually purchase, love, and, give homes to these animals, have their rights taken away. Why should several of us have to suffer because of the wishes of a few? There are several people that love their animals that have nothing but good things to say about the animals they purchased here. You guys all want to say puppy mills are bad, puppy mills are this. Pet stores are completely against puppy mills as well. They do their research, they go to their brokers, they get everything they need. They give you the information. If you would request an information from the pet store, they have it right then and there. All the information, USDA licenses, breeder number, breeder information, everything you wish to know, pet stores have it right there and ready for you. They have the warranties to back you up. If you go to an animal shelter, if you buy from a breeder, they're not necessarily going to give you all the medical coverages, everything that come with the pet stores, that come from the puppy from a pet store. Pet store puppies give you the warranties. If something was to happen to your dog, if something was wrong with your dog, they will be there. They show their face. They're there to back you up. Breeders, animal shelters, you adopt a puppy, that's your dog. Sorry, see ya, bye. Okay, and that's all.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alicia Osterman, and I have come here to speak in favor of pet stores. It frightens me to think that because of the beliefs of a few, so many of us can lose beloved store in this community. I have followed some of the issues these activists stand for, and it seems that if they were to have it their way, we would not only be losing pet stores, we'd be losing any animal involved thing that we love. We could say goodbye to SeaWorld, the zoo, the circus, everything that we've grown up with that we love so much could be gone because of somebody else's thoughts. We all have the right to choose what we want to do. Some people choose not to go to a shelter, and that's okay. That's their choice. That's what was given to us. I don't feel that it's fair that you're pretty much asking us to believe what you want us to believe. You're pretty much asking us to go where you want us to go. Not only can you go to a shelter, which they need homes. Nowhere does anybody fight that a shelter animal doesn't need a home. Is that if somebody chooses to go with a puppy and if somebody chooses to go to a breeder or a pet store, that's their choice. Why take it away? There's so much evidence to back our breeders, so much evidence to back anything, but most people rely on Google. I can Google horsehair right now, and find a million things that are bad with it, except for the one thing of a horse. Is a horse bad? No. But, I'm sorry, that made no sense. They aim to close, like I said, they aim to close down pet stores asking people to Google puppy milk, but there's no evidence to prove themselves. Nobody can define exactly what a puppy mill is. Would you be considered a puppy mill because you're not USA licensed and your animals had puppies? There's no regulations, there's nothing, they had them in the kitchen. Is that fair to the animal? No. But guess what? You're not a puppy mill. You're just a loving owner, which everyone is. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sydney and Donna. Sydney and Donna, it was two first names on one sheet. I don't know if those two individuals are here. Oh, perfect.
Hi, I'm Cindy Sickerell from the Puppy Mill Project, formerly from the Companion Animal Protection Society. And the first issue with this exemption for non-commercial breeding establishments is that the main intention of ordinance bans was began because it was the purpose was of eliminating this retail sale of puppies in pet stores because of problems with cruelty, consumer fraud, and enforcement. This exemption serves to further encourage the very problems we sought to eliminate. On the subject of cruelty, an entity that has sold all or part of 3 or fewer litters or less than 20 dogs will not ensure that the dogs are treated well. When you mass-produce dogs, you've got a very big problem, and that's where we started. That's the problem with puppy mills. With enforcement, how do you plan to track the number of breeding dogs or litters? There's simply not possible. Is it self-reporting? Because that's going to be a big problem. If they're selling to a reseller, they will have to have a USDA license. So then we're back at the same place we started, and the reason that we started the ordinances in the first place. Overpopulation of companion animals is one of the main reasons also that these ordinances were started and passed around the country, because rescues and shelter animals have to be spayed and neutered. Dogs that are sold in pet stores or that will be sold through this exemption won't be spayed and neutered, and then we get back into the problem of overpopulation. Also, with the problems with enforcement, this exemption will keep the consumer fraud aspect pretty much alive and well and where it was before. Allowing this exemption to remain in this ordinance will be the same as if we never passed a thing. It really takes us back to square one. So the Puppy Mill Project encourages you to please remove this from the ordinance or table the ordinance. Thank you.
Next, we have Elizabeth Orek and Judy Mancuso. Sorry.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Elizabeth Orek. I'm the National Manager of Puppy Mill Initiatives for Best Friends Animal Society, and we are in full support of a retail pet sales ordinance for Oceanside. The fact is, pet mills, particularly puppy mills, are in business to supply pet stores, and yet there is a more humane alternative, which is for these stores to stop supporting the puppy and kitten mill industries and transition to an adoption model, as thousands of pet stores across the country are already doing very successfully. So this proposal would not preclude pet stores from staying in business. It would not impact responsible hobby breeders who could continue to sell directly to the public. And of course, it would not prevent anyone from adopting an animal. And there is no shortage of puppies or purebreds or cats or kittens currently looking for homes in the Oceanside area. This morning I did a search on petfinder.com for puppies available for adoption, and there are currently 19,954 puppies looking for homes in the Oceanside area, just through this one website, including 101 Yorkie puppies, 91 Pomeranian puppies, 1,140 Chihuahua puppies, and those are just a few of the breeds that are commonly sold in pet stores. There are currently 19,267 kittens, not cats, just kittens, available for adoption in and around Oceanside, again, just on this one website. A pet sales ordinance is a reasonable way to prevent an endless supply of poorly bred pets from being imported into the city so that consumers are protected and fewer animals will have to suffer in order to supply the retail pet trade, and to relieve the burden on shelters and therefore the taxpayers by getting animals out of those facilities and into retail settings where they have a greater chance of being adopted by the public. However, I would respectfully request that the council consider striking the exemption that would permit pet stores to source from non-commercial breeders, because it would be virtually impossible to enforce. It would create a loophole for backyard breeders and other unregulated sources to supply pet stores with no oversight. It would not have the desired effect to reduce shelter euthanasia, and because responsible breeders do not sell to pet stores, which is a basic tenet you can find in every reputable breeder's code of ethics, including all of the parent breed clubs on the American Kennel Club's website. So with that revision, you will have a fair, reasonable, and effective ordinance similar to that of 73 other communities throughout North America. So thank you very much for considering this important reform and setting a positive example for the rest of the country to follow.
Hi. My name is Judy Mancuso, and I am the founder of Social Compassion in Legislation, which is a 501c4. I've led the effort in the city of Los Angeles for this exact pet shop ordinance, and worked with the government of the city of West Hollywood. We passed it in my hometown of Laguna Beach and in Irvine as well. So I've worked with many city governments on this exact, and like I said, led the charge in the city of LA. I am also a public member of the California Veterinary Medical Board, appointed by the Speaker of the Assembly, but I am here today as the founder of Social Compassion in Legislation. And I urge you to pass this ordinance without the exemption as well. And I won't belabor what everyone before me has already told you, but it is unenforceable, and that is the reason why other communities in the state of California have not passed this ordinance with any type of exemption such as this. Again, cruelty could be 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 animals, and no one is going to be able to regulate whether these folks have 20 or less animals on their property, and especially if they're from out of town, out of state, no one is going to be able to go and make sure that these animals are in good health and in good conditions. So I've worked with a lot of breeders in my time working on state legislation and local government legislation. And the breeding community will tell you that a good, reputable, bona fide breeder will not sell through a pet store. So this is not taking anyone's business away. This is cleaning up the cruelty. It is giving a storefront to these poor shelter animals that linger and die in shelters a lot of times because people do not want to go into a shelter. So it gives them the opportunity to be in a storefront where people, it's a safe environment for them to come, see the animals, hang out with them in a comfortable place, and adopt them. So please pass the ordinance without the exemption today. And I'd like to thank your city attorney for doing so much work, and all the council members as well, and your local community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next, we have Joan Miller and Peter L. Keyes.
Good evening, ma'am.
I'm Joan Miller, and I am speaking on behalf of the Cat Fanciers Association. We're the largest pet registry of pedigree cats in the world. And I'm also speaking on behalf of the San Diego Cat Fanciers, which is a local club in San Diego. I am also the former president of the National Council on Pet Population and Study and Policy, which is the most viable, reliable research that's been done on shelter issues and homeless cats and dogs. So I've had many years of involvement in these issues. The original intent of these various pet store bills or ordinances that we've been hearing about in the United States was supposedly to prevent the so-called cruelty of out-of-state sales of dogs from puppy mills. It's becoming clear that the intent of the ordinances now, and also this one, is to help the shelter and rescue animals. And unfortunately, we don't feel that this ordinance will have any positive impact in this regard. In fact, the real object of those that are supporting the ordinance is to create a monopoly. They want to sell only shelter rescue dogs and cats. We don't understand why cats should even be arbitrarily included in the ordinance. If it's directed toward the cruelty of dogs in out-of-state facilities. We're highly offended by the use in the ordinance of the words kitten factories, for instance. It's used many times in the prelude. And in paragraph 14, it attributes the phrase kitten mills to the Humane Society of the United States. But I've searched their entire website, and I also read their white paper on puppy mill research, and there's no mention of the HSUS of the word kitten factory. I don't know who coined that word. We're very offended by it because there really is no real large commercial breeding of cats in the United States. It's not financially viable. It's very difficult to breed cats. So I don't think that I'm going to be just speaking just narrowly on this issue, but we will cover some other issues. I think Peter will and other people. But to really take care of the cats, I don't think this ordinance would do anything for that. I think we have to deal with the feral cat issues. We have to deal with the outreach to the trap, neuter, and return. We have to do good adoption and do some of the programs that the San Diego Humane Society does very well. So, thank you.
Thank you for the privilege of addressing you. My name is Peter Keyes, and I am the representative, at least this evening, of the San Diego Cat Fanciers. I have a comment to make for you under Section D of your production staff report, Part 1. We request that you change the wording to read born and reared, as opposed to reading what it does now, bred and reared. Cats are often bred off premises. Stud may be elsewhere, for example. And they are returned to the owner for birthing and rearing of the kittens. In your staff report, to which I alluded a moment ago, paragraph number 1, your title page entitled Synopsis, your staff gets it right, born and reared. I encourage you to redo the wording to correspond to what it says in your synopsis, because that is correct. Incidentally, the San Diego Humane, represented by Gary Weitzman, who's here this evening, will be at the San Diego Cat Fanciers show with adoptable cats. That show is held the last essential weekend in January of this year, 2 weeks away. They have always been influential at our show for the many contributions that San Diego Humane makes for the benefit of all animals. I want to quote from Gary's introductory note in his annual report, and this is desirable for you as board members to read and grasp clearly what he shares. He says, our goal of saving the lives of every adoptable and treatable animal in San Diego County. This year alone, they have, I'm misquoting, by the end of 2015, they pledged to get that number down to 0. I encourage you to address these issues of spay-neuter and the transport programs that are involved in the business of cats. We appreciate the time you've given us, and we thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, if I may interrupt you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very, very important issue, and we're going to finish it in a moment. By protocol, I have to interrupt you and do one item and move back to this item if we may. I have a very important guest that came on here who's very, very busy, and I know that. So I would like to step up here and interrupt this for a moment and do one more thing, and I'll come back to this very important issue. Excuse me, one, if I may.
Deb? Ladies and gentlemen, I always like to introduce my important heroes in this area, and a lot of those are north of us at Camp Pendleton, all the men and women out there that are fighting for freedom around the world. But it's very nice every so often that I get to bring somebody in who's a real star, and he has a lot of stars on his collar. And that's the gentleman that's in charge of the first mess out of Camp Pendleton, and I would like to have Lieutenant General Berger step up here if he would. And ladies and gentlemen, let's give a real welcome. You got Brother Jim out? Do you have anyone to read, or just let him do it?
Yes.
Okay, what it is, ladies and gentlemen, came all the way out of his way, and this gentleman's in charge of a lot of military personnel, my heroes out there, and he is one too. Believe me, this is the highest ranking Marine you'll see on the West Coast of the United States, in charge of the first meth. He's been a real gentleman. He and his wife had had me to the house for Christmas. I want to repay that and have him here to see you in the audience on TV. It's always nice to put a face with somebody who is really a leader and a hero for our neighbors to the north, and that's this gentleman. I would like him to give a few words, and I'll let him get on his way and thank him for being here. If you would, Lieutenant General, I appreciate it, and I'll hand you the mic. I know you have your aide here, and I think that's wonderful. In the back, if you may, he's a general, certainly, but his assistant is a major. How are you, or is a captain? Major? Good to see that far. If you would, sir, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. First off, thank you very much for giving me just a couple moments really to thank you. There are, on any given day, 51 or 52,000 Marines in the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force. It's that big. I look at those as your Marines and your sailors. I mean, I'm privileged enough to lead them, but really they come from our communities, right? They are us. They are you. So first off, probably 3 things. First, although the last group of Marines came out of Afghanistan about 3.5, 4 weeks ago, we're going back into Iraq. And the reason I bring that up is, and we're sending in just some advisors right now, but there are some people who aren't familiar with the military and think the end of Afghanistan means we're all coming home and peace will break out and we won't have to go overseas anymore, and it will be just, the world will be a great peaceful place. That's not the world we live in. I'm just telling you, your Marines and sailors are going to continue to deploy. Right now, some are in Asia, and some are in the Middle East, and some are in South America, some are down on our border here working with the Border Department. They're really busy. They're working very, very hard. I'm just telling you, you would be extremely proud of them. But they're not going to get any time off. And it's not going to get any slower for them. The second really is to thank you on behalf of those Marines and sailors and our families. We are 52,000 in uniform, and all of our families, we live in your neighborhoods. We absolutely rely on you to take care of us. Everything from the medical to the what you do, where we live in the housing area, everything that supports us, you provide. And this community and the others around here really wrap your arms around the military people here and put like a shield around us. And you adopt us and you take care of us. And you take that personally. I'm just letting you know we appreciate it. Whether you live on the base or off the base, it's very apparent the support that Oceanside gives all the Marines and all the sailors that work here, that live here. This is the third time that my family's lived here in Camp Pendleton. And so we're not the first time, 1981. So we've seen, like some of you all, since 1981, a lot of changes in Oceanside. All good. All really good. And the ones who moved here now, they would, if they were to imagine what it looked like 30, 35 years ago, they would be really surprised. So, from us, I'm just telling you thank you very, very much. Last thing I'll ask of you is please keep the dialogue between the city and us wide open. There's a Brigadier General Banta, Ted Banta, who came here before I know, because the mayor was kind enough to invite him. He runs our base. I'm in charge of the people. He's in charge of the base. I'm just asking you to keep the conversation between us open. Like any family, there will be times when we have some problems. But as long as we're talking, we can work through all of them. The moment we stop talking, then the problems get really difficult. So I'm asking you just to keep the conversation open, keep the telephone lines open, keep the dialogue going. Right now, things are very, very strong, and we need to keep them that way. We're very proud to be living here. There's so many things that Americans have to be thankful for that they take for granted. And you all don't, because you see what we do training-wise and you see what we do deployment-wise when our spouses and our kids are here and the Marines are gone on a ship or gone around the world. You all take care of them. So you see some of that sacrifice, but most America never gets a chance to see that. I was reminded about a couple weeks ago. Now is very different than 30, 40 years ago, because now less than 1% of America will ever serve in uniform. Less than 1%. So the other 99%, in other words, are reaping the benefits, and they don't really know what we do. You all help paint that picture because you know what we do. You know what we do during the weekends. You know what we do during the week. So I'm thanking you on behalf of so many Marines and sailors and all of our families. Thank you for taking care of us. Thank you for at times putting up with some extra noise. Thank you for your patience when we ask you for things on the weekends to go out of your way to help us train. Trust that when we ask you to bend a little bit to help us train, it's so that we can keep them alive when they go to combat. We have to be able to train realistically. So I'm thanking you also for, at times, putting up with the extra noise and extra traffic and the big machines on the road and all the other kind of things that are a little bit inconvenient sometimes. They're important. For us, we have to be able to train hard. And you make that possible. So thank you for this evening. Thank you for everything that you do for us in uniform. Thank you for everything you do for our families. And thanks for this evening and moments tonight.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for giving an Oceanside welcome to this funeral. Let's face it, not only what they do around the world for us, for security, etc., and the wars. Remember the last big fire where the entire county was burning down? Navy and Marine Corps helicopters were one of the big factors in putting those fires out. They gave us all that help, and when our town's burning down, we really appreciated that also, not just what you do on a daily basis. And I'm sorry, and I apologize for interrupting one of our meetings, but I thought this gentleman is on a busy schedule. With that, will I get a picture with him? And, ladies and gentlemen, council, if you want to come up, get a group photo with the gentleman, come on. I'll bring it right to your office. Maybe 1:09, then we'll get it up.
It's late driver. Every group needs one. Yes, sir.
Thank you, thank you, council, and we'll get you out. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for interrupting a very important council issue. I do appreciate it, but I know he needed to go back. He's doing a lot of things around the world. I know a few minutes of his time is all he could take. Thank you for your patience and that round of applause for one of our heroes. Thank you very much. With that, I'm sorry, we're back to speakers, I'm assuming.
Yes, our next two speakers are Ronnie, apologize for mispronunciation, Steinet, there you go. And next after that is David Salinas Jr.
Good evening, council members. I wrote a letter last night, and I'm just going to read it in case you all didn't have a chance to look at it. I've just learned about an exemption for a non-commercial breeding establishment in the proposed ordinance to ban puppy mill puppies from being sold within the city limits. I'm urging you to remove the exemption from the draft ordinance since it opens the door for unregulated animal breeding. There is no agency or regulator assigned to track down the breeders and to document the number of animals housed or bred for sale. A reputable, non-commercial breeder does not breed animals in order to make a profit. The exemption allows backyard breeders and other non-reputable breeders to enter into a profit-making business and to set up a puppy mill, whatever the scale, in order to increase profits. The non-commercial bred pets will most likely be intact, therefore perpetuating and exacerbating the pet overpopulation problem. All the other ordinances that are now in effect in California do not have such an exemption. Again, please remove the exemption for non-commercial breeding establishments and then pass the ordinance to ban puppy mill puppies from retail sales in Oceanside. This is in the best interest of the city and its residents. Thank you for your consideration and for having compassion for the animals. Thank you.
Hello, City Council. My name is David Salinas. I'm the owner of Oceanside Puppy.
You have to adjust the mic, I can't hear you very well. Thank you, sir.
Sure. David Salinas, owner of Oceanside Puppy, the only store that's going to be affected by this ordinance. Natural City Puppy and the Fancy Puppy open for owner. I'd like to submit for the record the letter from PJAC, which is titled Testimony of the Pet Industry Joint Advisory Council before the Oceanside, California City Council regarding proposed ordinance to regulate the retail sale of dogs and cats in Oceanside. So if you can, if you can go and grab this. And I'd also like to go and submit a city ordinance or an open letter to the residents of San Diego County and to Oceanside regarding puppy mills and city ordinances. So a letter to be also on file. I'll bring it back to you. And then also a letter that we wrote to Mr. Chuck Lowry in regards to his standing on the issue of him supporting this ordinance. And he obviously ran his campaign on it and piggybacked off of the animal rights extremist efforts. So I'll have this here for you whenever you're ready. All right, talking a little bit about Oceanside Puppy, we've been open since last year, 2013. We've received 897 puppies from Hunt Corporation. Out of those 897 puppies, we've had a total of 10 claims with Hunt Corporation, so that's 10, that's about 1%. Of three of them were for health issues such as a URI, which is an upper respiratory, basically the puppy cold, and the other 7 were for hereditary and congenital issues. It could have been a knee problem or something like that, where the puppy was obviously unfit for sale and we returned it. So again, out of the 897 puppies, only 10 were returned. We do a phenomenal job. And actually, I had 2 people cede some time to me. Was that on record? David Slade Sr. and Adela Salinas.
Yes, sir.
So if we can add those to that time.
Generally, the council policy is only at 3 minutes, but it would be up to the mayor's discretion to allow.
I'll be brief. I won't go too long. We employ 30 employees within all 3 of our stores. We've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales tax revenue. We are a legitimate company. We care about what we do, and you guys all know this. I think that there's a lot of propaganda going on here and a lot of half-truths being said. You guys have been provided all the information from all the leading industry proponents of the breeders, and you guys have received it, and it seems like you guys have turned a blind eye to it. I just hope that you will reflect on that again before you make your decision and change, hopefully, your made-up mind on what you're going to vote for. And just one last...
David, your time's up, but go ahead.
Okay, just really quick. I just wanted to think about the end game of what's going on here. In the industry, we're now doing mandatory spay and neuters. All hobby breeders have to be licensed. They can only have 4 puppies. Every adopted dog is spayed and neutered. You have to close down every pet store. You're eliminating commercial breeders, and the USDA will no longer allow nonprofits to import dogs from other countries for sale here in the United States under quote adoptions. Where are the puppies going to go? Where are they going to come from? I mean, if you're spaying and neutering every single animal, what's going to happen? You're going to dwindle the pet population so much, there's going to be an over-demand for puppies, and nobody's going to have them because everything's spayed and neutered. Nonprofits are now trying to import dogs in. The USDA passed that law, so you can laugh about it, but they passed a law so that they can no longer import dogs under adoptions from Mexico, from Taiwan, from the Philippines, from all these other countries. So this is not the right solution. I will work with Oceanside in regards to an ordinance. I am open to showing reports. I am open to eliminating certain breeders that you guys don't like. I'm totally open to that. We've even mentioned in the past with certain nonprofits that we'd work with them, but because of the hypocrisy of the industry, they don't want to do adoption events in front of our store. So do they want to adopt more dogs or not? Okay, so all I'm saying is that we're willing to work with Oceanside. We have thousands of happy customers. We're doing a good job. And the proof is in our statistics and in our numbers. So please reconsider. If you want to pass the ordinance, go ahead. But at least put in there, to put reports, don't ban it. Don't ban our store. Okay, we cannot live off of the adoption model. We cannot sell nail clippers and make a profit. We're a 1,500 square foot facility. Okay, we're not a Petco, we're not a PetSmart. Those organizations are humongous. We can't compete against them. Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Our next 2 speakers are Linda Martin, and I'm terribly sorry for this next one. I apologize. I believe it's B-U-I-E Michael. I'm so sorry. Linda Martino is first, and then I'm so sorry. I apologize.
Hi, go ahead.
All right, first of all, would obviously like to thank you for giving me a moment to speak. I am a cat breeder, and one of the main problems I have is that frequently with these ordinances, it's about dogs, and they add "and cat" without understanding that there's major differences involved. As a hobbyist breeder of 26 years. I take a lot of pride in what I do. I lose probably about $20,000 a year on my hobby. It's a very expensive hobby when done well. And the way that you've written your ordinance, the idea that 3 versus 4 litters makes the difference between somebody who's an ethical breeder and someone who's an unethical breeder is frankly not very realistic. And cats, for example, need to be bred twice a year, unlike dogs, which can be bred once a year. Do you really want to put rules and regulations in place that would force an ethical hobby breeder to make bad decisions about breeding their cats health-wise, simply to conform to some rules that you made when you don't understand what it's like to be a breeder and what goes into being a good breeder versus what goes into being a backyard breeder. This isn't going to impact backyard breeders. It's going to impact ethical breeders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I got up here to speak. Originally, I was planning to offer you a sheet about several, a chain back east of puppy stores that has moved to the adoption mode of having puppies for adoption in their stores. And the article, if you have a chance to read it, I'm going to submit it to the city clerk, discusses how they're actually adopting out many more dogs than they did before they adopted this new policy. I'm a little shook up because I was not planning to address anything regarding Mr. Salinas, but I have to address some of the things that he spoke about. Number one, when you walk into his store, there are cameras that say no photos. He doesn't allow you to take pictures of the breeder cards that are there. When they are obtained surreptitiously, we've all seen, there was at the last meeting, you saw that these cards from breeders was shown that these breeders have had many code violations, USDA approved breeders that he says are so wonderful. One day he was in his store and somebody was asking for him. He wasn't in the store, and his people said he's back in the Midwest looking at his breeders. 10 minutes later he walked into the store when they left the store. So to say that he is going to follow policy makes me skeptical. I was not going to address that at all, but I listened to him talk about what a wonderful situation he has, and his animals come from back east and the Midwest. And by the way, he does online sales, and he has 2 other stores. So he will hardly be in hardship if the store is not allowed to any longer sell puppy mill dogs. Thank you.
Our next 2 speakers are Mike Cruen and Eder de la Mora.
Good evening, council members. My name is Mike Krogan. Are we still asked to give addresses? 4522 Coronado Drive, Oceanside. I have some points I'd like you to consider, or at least hear. They're not necessarily related. First, I have a question. Do we, in this country and in this city, have regulations governing adoption agencies? Should we have those regulations? Do we support the protections that those regulations offer to the clients? And I'd like to respond to a comment made earlier. I do believe that this regulation or this ordinance is under consideration with the caveats that have been presented to you, provide a product that does come from wood. Something that has been missing in the discussion so far, except for one mention that I recall, is I'm not hearing any proponents behind this business give us any defense for the predatory practices that we have been told that this business carries on. on a regular basis. I was raised in West LA in Venice, and when I was a boy and a young man, Oceanside was the party city. And I'm thinking about what permitted those parties, and since I've been living in Oceanside for the last 18 years, the efforts to regulate business in this town that are businesses that we don't want in this town. It seems to me that if we want to protect the business interests of a group of people who have brought lots of jobs and income to Oceanside, then we need to pass an ordinance to protect the pimps. If you remember, they had fabulous business opportunities in this town a generation ago. My final point is, nobody is asking this business to leave town that I've heard. What we are asking is that this business follows humane practices. I don't understand the resistance to that. Thank you.
Hello, yeah, my name is Erwin Mora. I'm dear city council members. I'm here to speak in favor of the pet. Hi, my name is Edward De La Mora. Can you hear me now? Yeah, okay. I'm here to speak in favor of the pet stores. There has been a lot of talk about potentially banning and closures of retail pet stores. And me and several other consumers that support local businesses think this is unacceptable. Protesters and activists speak on so-called puppy mills, yet none of them seem to be able to come to a consensus to say what a puppy mill is. They say that mothers are not at the store, that makes it a puppy mill. They say that there are too many puppies, that makes it a puppy mill. But yet, no, then does that make a local shelter or any other pet rescues a puppy mill as well? We have a constitutional right to purchase puppies where we please. I don't see it right to take away everyone's right simply to please the wishes of extremist bunch that have no real facts to offer. Pet stores are subject to some of the most strictest guidelines and regulations. Shutting them down would only make backyard breeders a lot more prone to selling dogs that people will not get and won't have healthy pets. Another thing with closing the pet stores, a lot of people will be out of jobs. Even though it's only one store, that's still some families that are closing in Oceanside. You wouldn't only lose the store, you would also lose the foot traffic and the happy families that do go in and play with pets. That would be all.
Our last speaker is Allison Kittner.
Pardon? There should be a link. Allison Kittner, thank you. Allison Kittner, Henry Hills, Oceanside resident.
Hold your mic down so we can hear you though.
Allison Kittner, Oceanside, Henry Hills resident. This should clear up what a puppy mill is, and that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Puppy mills are a very serious problem in this country. These high-volume commercial dog breeding facilities, which supply nearly 100% of U.S. pet stores and online puppy retailers, are substandard factories in which profit and maximum productivity take priority over the health and welfare of the animals. Although licensed dog breeders who sell to pet stores and distributors are regulated by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the minimal federal standards do not ensure a healthy or humane life for dogs. In fact, they do little more than require food and water. These types of kennels can legally have hundreds, often 1,000 dogs in one facility, and those dogs are allowed to be confined to cages that are only 6 inches larger than the dogs themselves, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for their entire lives. They are often deprived of exercise, veterinary care, and positive human socialization. Many have never felt the sun on their backs or solid ground beneath their feet. It's far from the life any of us would want for a dog. Because the goal at a puppy mill is to make a profit, mill owners must cut corners in order to keep expenses low and profits high. So staffing, quality of care and nourishment, veterinary attention, and human contact all tend to be minimal, and dogs are routinely overbred and inbred in order to maximize the investment. For the unsuspecting consumer, this frequently results in the purchase of a pet facing an array of immediate veterinary problems or harboring genetic diseases that surface down the line, well after the store's warranty or state lemon law is no longer applicable, provided the particular state has such a law. This creates a financial burden on the consumer and results in many of these animals being surrendered to our already overcrowded shelters. Approximately 1/4 of the dogs in shelters are purebred. This is not just a humane issue, but a consumer fraud issue, as customers assume the animals they are buying at such a high price are healthy and of the highest quality, when in fact this is rarely the case. So while the retailers may benefit from the practice of buying puppies at a low price from mostly out-of-state commercial dealers and then selling them at a high profit, typically without first spaying or neutering them, it is the tax-paying public that pays to house and often kill unwanted animals in the community. Puppy mills are in business to supply the pet trade. We estimate that there are about 10,000 licensed and unlicensed puppy mills in the United States, mostly concentrated in the Midwest. Those mills produce roughly 2 million puppies every year. Meanwhile, 2 to 4 million animals are killed in U.S. shelters every year. These are not defective, unadoptable animals, but a surplus caused by the fact that there are simply not enough people stepping up to adopt them. It makes little sense to continue manufacturing dogs when so many are being killed for lack of space. Thank you.
No further public on this item.
I'm sorry.
No further public on this item.
Thank you. Back to the council. I appreciate that. Councilmember Sanchez, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to first say that, Mr. Mello, I think you did an excellent job in doing the research and presenting to the council and to our public what the legal issues are and what responsibilities we do have as a city council, and what our legitimate interests are. And we most definitely have the interests that have been outlined in this presentation, and that is, number one, I think many times on this dais, we first go to the economics, and I'll go ahead and start there, although my heart is somewhere else, but it truly is the economics that we have to look at. And we have seen our contract with the Humane Society get bigger and bigger and bigger, and services get lower and lower and lower. It is the high cost of animal control that is something we must do. We absolutely must do. City of Oceanside used to have its own animal control facility. We used to run it ourselves. It became something that the council decided to contract out. In its decision to do that, it is the Humane Society now who has the expertise in having to, and usually very limited in terms of agencies that are able to do this, and the Humane Society is one of them. However, there is still that cost, that contract. The cost is real in dollars and impacts to our community. The cost is very real. So that truly is a legitimate interest for the city of Oceanside. The one that I think many of us go to first is the legitimate interest in preventing cruelty. Cruelty to animals, this practice, and I'm talking about puppy mill dogs. I am not talking about out of state or in state. I'm talking about a practice, period, I want to be very clear about that. I am not talking about a hunt corporation in somewhere in the Midwest. I am talking about the actual practice of cruelty. And whether it be in the state of California or outside of the state of California, that's what I'm addressing, that I believe that we have legitimate interest in addressing. We do have, and I've heard stories, and I believe that there are facts to support that we do have also certain things that happen within that impact our military personnel, having to do with the, and I've heard the word predatory consumer practices. We have, as a council, put a stop to lending institutions. And I don't believe we had a whole lot of opposition to that. We were concerned about the impacts, especially to our military. And while that's not something that we've spent a lot of time addressing, we are very much interested in that as well. The primary ones, however, that we have before us that are truly in the courts at this time have to do with the city's legitimate interest in its economic, in its budget, in its economic interests, as well as protection against cruelty. So I find that our city attorney has done a very good job in ensuring that those are things that we are addressing here. I want to say that with respect to the exemptions, I understand very well your concerns about that. We are here today to try to address in the best possible way a real problem. I am asking you to support what is before us. If it does not do what we intend to do here at the dais, then certainly we can come back another day. But at this point, I move introduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll let you either second it or speak next, Deputy Mayor, please. Thank you.
So, we did get a lot of email. We print these things out here because they're documents that are public documents. So I received 562 emails about this issue in favor of the regulation. Come on down. And I also received 7 emails against the regulation. I received one letter, I just got it now, from Mr. Salinas. And I also got one phone call. So that's my full public disclosure. But I also did some homework. I read this magazine. I'm a member of the United States Humane Society, and this is their magazine. There's a nice article in here about a pet store in Kentucky that decided to try an adoption event. So they had a lot of dogs that were available from shelters brought in, and they sold so many. They didn't sell any, they gave them away. It was an adoption event, and they created a lot of new customers. So this particular store has 10 retail locations. They were so successful with the one, they decided to convert it to all 10 of their stores. So I believe that that's a great possible venue approach for us to take here in the city of Oceanside, is to have the retail store do what someone else has already done. We're not reinventing the wheel here. This is an effective way to market animals and create your business as a support business, not simply a retail sales operation. So I am going to support this regulation, and I believe that we have created a program through our city attorney's office that will allow the business to function if they so choose, and if they do not choose, then that's their choice. So I second this item and hope to move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kern, please.
Thank you. I'm not going to support it. I told last time that I don't think this is what we should be doing. I understand the deputy mayor in his modeling, but it's not for us to tell somebody how to operate a business, right? If they're allowed to do it, they should be allowed to do it as long as it's legal, right? And they're zoned for it, and this is a retail establishment. I have a question for the city attorney. You mentioned the Farvad case, I'm probably pronouncing that poorly. That was actually today permanently enjoined from enforcement by the district court. That law was passed by the state of California, and this afternoon the district court actually set that law aside, so actually the state lost on that one. But I think there was something about, you mentioned Commerce Clause, it's about preemption. And if there's
Right.
other...
The quick response is the Ninth Circuit issued an opinion last year rejecting a legal challenge that was filed, and that specific legal challenge was brought on Commerce Clause issues, and other issues as well, but the Commerce Clause issue is the one that is particularly relevant to us because that is the issue that has been raised in the other 4 litigated cases that I mentioned before. I do understand there was a district court ruling. The district court is subordinate to the Ninth Circuit, but the district court's ruling, as I understand it, was brought on preemption grounds, not on the Commerce Clause. So while that is an important point to note, it doesn't really change the Commerce Clause issue that I raised before. I understand there will be an appeal on that district court's decision, so we'll be watching that too.
Okay, because I think, reading the article, I haven't read the full court decision, but in reading the article, since the feds regulated already, that they preempt local regulations, and I'm not quite sure if that, am I misreading that?
I haven't actually read that case yet. I've read the article as well. The Animal Welfare Act, the Federal Animal Welfare Act, Federal Animal Welfare Act, say that like 10 times, that actually does leave room for local regulation specifically. So probably we'll be facing different issues on that. Again, I have not fully read the district court's decision. Of course, the district court can't overrule the Ninth Circuit, so that'll be interesting on the appeal. Again, it's a different preemption issue, and there'd be different statutes at play.
Yeah, so what I'm very sure of is this, we're going to go to litigation and injunction, so we're probably at the beginning of a 2-year process, at least. So we're heading down that road before we come to some conclusion. I support the business, but I also support the idea that city councils have land use authority and what we can do. So even though I'm going to vote against this ordinance, I think it's within our realm to pass it. But I don't believe this is a good ordinance to pass because I think he should be allowed to do the businesses that is a legal business. The other thing is that even if we were successful, all that happens now is the people that want a puppy drive down to Carlsbad to buy a puppy. They go to the mall. There's a puppy store in the mall that gets the puppies from the same place. So you're not really accomplishing anything if you want to ban them from Oceanside. All we're losing out is the sales tax and the benefit of having a business in Oceanside because the benefit now goes to Carlsbad. I haven't seen anything come back in the Carlsbad Council about this. I don't see anybody protesting the Carlsbad store. It's just for some reason they're being protested here. So I cannot support this in any way because I think it's just wrong. I think people should have the right to purchase a legal product wherever they wish to buy a legal product. So that's why I'm voting against this. Thank you.
I have no other lights on. I'll jump in here and I'll try not to bore you or take too long. It's been a long time, but it's an important issue. I don't agree with Councilmember Kern. We shouldn't tell anybody or businesses how to run their business. Well, I have a book about that thick at the city that tells us what they can and can't do. So I'm assuming we do tell businesses how to run their business. There's rules and regulations from federal, state, county, and cities. It happens. We regulate things. On this one, it seemed to be a simple issue. And I'll remind some of you, when this first came up, well, all the decisions, all the issues, everybody spoke at this first time. We gave an option to this company in Oceanside that we knew had been kicked out of, let's say, San Diego and other cities for their policies. But they were here in town. They have a license. However, we're concerned about puppy mill tax only, really. That was a big issue. If I remember right, in that meeting, we gave some options to the company. Hey, you can buy all the dogs and cats and bunnies you want from legit breeders. There's plenty of them, legit breeders, just not puppy mills. We said even the Humane Society would give you dogs, cats, and animals to sell. They were willing to help you for free. Gave them a lot of options, and they didn't want to go along with that, and our voting majority in the council at that time agreed. We're back here again, and my issues are, we tried to help, and even help that company. I don't agree that we don't have the right to tell them what to do, because we do that to every business in town. Just try to get a permit for something. They'll tell you how much it costs and how long it takes. However, on this particular issue, I think it's a no-brainer. I'm sorry. This is about puppy mills only, in a big sense. Some of the pet stores I go says our dogs don't come from puppy mills. I'm hoping that's accurate. I'm not sure we'll ever stop this from out of the other states that do puppy mills, but I'm not going to keep these businesses operating in my city if I can when they have several options and don't take them. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. I think this is important. The only thing I have to decide on tonight, if I may, is I was willing to strike the exemption number 2 from this verbiage. Thank you, I appreciate it. Strike the verbiage, and I also wanted to look into the subsection D for born and bred, whatever verbiage that might be used, that the people brought up here regarding cats or whatever, and we're only trying to do the right things for animals, dogs, cats, bunnies, whatever, in our ordinance. We know there's a possibility of litigation. I think sometimes we understand we get sued all the time and we go to court a lot. Costs a lot of money for the city and the people that usually get involved in litigation. That's their choice. However, as you well know, at the end of the litigation, it can go 2 ways, and they can lose against us and cost them a lot of money, time, and legal fees. But my concern here is the animals that are from puppy mills, dogs, cats, whatever. I've seen all the videos, everything else people have seen. I just think it's not right. I can't sit behind and sit at home and think that we'll go ahead and disappear by doing something or not doing something. I think this is an important issue. I'm certainly going to support it. My only discussion I would like to have with the person that made the motion would be, and she explained why she'd go as it is. I'm concerned about number 1, exemption 2, should we keep it or not, and down the road we can always change it. I understand that. And the wording, verbiage on subsection D regarding born and bred for the animals, minor issue, I think that can be addressed.
Yeah, I understand the point of the speaker, and I would recommend that you make the change. So that would be changing the word bred on page 5, line 18, section D1 to born.
Thank you, so that's easy enough. But going back to the maker of the motion, I'll vote for it as is, but I wanted her opinion on subsection regarding 2, which would be the striking that verbiage and saying no, and then whatever's necessary if people want to sell their cats, dogs, animals, whatever, without having a USDA approved type license or whatever. I'm going to give it back to our motion. The motion, if it stays as it is, I'll still support it, but I wanted you to think about it. You did explain it. You're the maker of the motion. I would say strike exemption B 2. That's your call.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have thought really hard and long about this, and I believe that the right thing to do is to get a result. And in order to do that, I believe that what our city attorney is presenting to us is what I believe we should do. So, with respect to the born and bred, there are 2 different, very different things. I would imagine that we wouldn't want them to be happening, to be sold if they were not done on the premises. So what I need to do is ask, if I may, through the mayor, what the city attorney's intention was when he wrote this.
You know, working with the Humane Society, my intention was born. And I think that was the language that was used in the San Diego ordinance. I might have misstated it in the draft when I put bred and reared. I don't think I meant something different. I assumed that breeders would be breeding them on the premises and rearing them on the premises and then selling, and that's what that exemption applies to. I'm not sure that there is a difference to, you know, if they're birthed on the premises and reared on the premises, why we wouldn't exempt that. But I really would defer to the Humane Society representative to see if they have, our contractor, if they have a different interpretation.
Could you step forward, please? Thank you. I know you put your hand up, but we stopped public input, so through him I'll have to go.
Yeah.
So this is related to B1, Gary, with respect to the bred and reared is what it says now, and the request has been made to make it born and reared, and I'll defer to you if you think.
No, I do understand, and Councilmember Sanchez, I agree. I think it should remain as bred rather than born. It's tighter that way. And I also want to thank you, City Attorney, you did a great job with this. And the Humane Society is the service provider for the City of Oceanside. We're here as advisors, but we all are also strongly in support of the ordinance, obviously, and we're in San Diego as well. My concern is with that exemption, especially the second one, we would find it very difficult to enforce. And we will be the agency required to do that. So I just want to call that to the council's attention. And with that, I would agree this would be a wonderful thing to pass.
If I may, the city attorney was asking questions. I didn't finish for the Councilwoman Sanchez, but like I say, it's her call. I want to stick together with a voting majority here. But like I say, I'm concerned about that exemption too. And that's Humane Society's advice. Whatever you wish to do, I will help you on it. Excuse me, sir. That's true, and I would like to take a 5-minute recess for people that haven't been here before, out the doors, up the stair, water, and bathrooms, and a 5-minute break, what we probably need.
I've worked with all the no good idea of it. You are trying to so the city
relating to
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get started again. It's going to be a long night. We apologize for that, but this is important. We already are doing our 5-minute break, have split votes and split opinions in the audience, so it makes it a long evening. Wait till I get my counsel back and we'll get started. I've heard a lot of comments during the break regarding exemption two, that it doesn't go this way, that it should be tabled and whatever, I don't want to step on toes, and the verbiage regarding born and bred is an issue out in the audience too. We're trying to do what we can, the best we can, to make everybody happy. That doesn't seem to be the thing that's going on tonight, but we'll still be discussing this, so let's move forward in a little while here. I want my city attorney to get a word out there. So with that, back in here, going back to the maker of the motion, I'm concerned about exemption two and some of the verbiage regarding breeding for cats can be shipped somewhere to breed or whatever. And I know it's important to each individual, but back to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may, through the mayor, ask the city attorney regarding some further clarification as to the born versus bred.
I think I've spoken to some of the cat breeders who are in the audience, and they make the point that on occasion they will send a cat to be bred off-site, but it's returned and born. The kittens are born and reared on-site, and then subsequently sold. So I can't necessarily speak for the Humane Society, but I don't think you have any strenuous objection to us at this time using the word born instead of bred, and then we will continue to look at this issue after introduction and before adoption and see if there's a need to modify that.
With that advice, then I will be changing my motion to include the change, which is to change the word from bred to born. And with respect to the second item, Mr. Mayor, that you bring up, having to do with the entire exemption, I still feel that we are on very solid ground with what the city attorney has proposed, and I'm going to continue to support that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. With that,
just a second, agree to my change, which is the born versus bred. Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Feller, sir.
Thank you. Pardon my voice tonight. The choice here is whether we're going to legislate a business out of business. I am not really sure how you do that. I know we have chosen to do that with things like marijuana dispensaries and tattoo parlors and things like that. So I'm probably I feel like it can be done realistically. I feel like online will be a stronger tool, and more people will be getting their animals online that currently go to our store. In the American Kennel Club letter, it says when consumers cannot acquire a pet that is appropriate fit for their lifestyle, that animal is more likely to end up in the shelter system. A better solution is to ensure that the consumers are educated, understand the demand of responsible ownership, and have access to a variety of pets so they can make educated choices. And this is a choice, whether you all agree or disagree how he gets his pets. We also have, I don't know whether do the people that I know of a couple within Oceanside and Henny Hills and Morrow Hills. There's a couple of breeders that breed certain types of animals. Do they have business licenses with us? Is that something they should have if they are a breeder of these animals?
Well, in terms of do they, I don't think there's any business in Oceanside that has a business license for a breeder. Now, should they, I'd have to know the particulars, but I could get back to you on that.
Well, I would assume that that's a business for them if they are selling the animals. And the state has I think what we call a puppy lemon law, going back. Can you enlighten us as to what that might be about back in the 90s when the state put that out?
Yeah, it's an act that provides various rights and remedies for purchasers of puppies that show illnesses after retail purchase.
We had one lady, I don't remember who it was, but said something about 19,000 dogs running loose and not running loose, within the vicinity to adopt within the city of Oceanside. And then repeated it with 19,000 cats, and I'm not really sure how that works out. Is that a correct assumption, or is that just all by emails and, or I'm sorry, by online? I'd like to know how you came up with those numbers for the city of Oceanside. So, yes, please.
Hello again, Elizabeth Orrick from Best Friends. Those were not animals running loose, thank goodness. This was on petfinder.com, which is a national database of adoptable animals throughout the country. So I did a search specifically in Oceanside, in the Oceanside area, for puppies and kittens. So not dogs and cats, just puppies and kittens, the things you find normally for sale in pet stores, that were available for adoption in the area of Oceanside. And there were 19,267 kittens available for adoption in and around Oceanside. So that's from shelters, rescue groups, anybody who puts their animals up for adoption through this database. And there were 14,954 puppies, baby dogs, available for adoption in and around Oceanside through various shelters and rescue groups. Anyone can do that search. You can do it right now on your smartphones if you like.
If you know how it works. Yes.
I can show you. Happy to show you.
The issue for me is that seems like a tremendous amount of people in and around Oceanside, unless you're counting several counties around us. That seems like an awful lot of animals. I also have a question for the Humane Society, and maybe they can come up and answer.
It's a lot of homeless animals in this country and in Southern California and in Oceanside. This was my point about why it's unnecessary to keep importing poorly bred animals into the community when there are so many looking for homes.
Well, I want to know. You've answered my question about 19,000 and 14,000. Now I'll ask Gary a couple of questions.
Thank you.
How many animals? How many puppies and kittens are you?
We have it at the shelter. As you know, we're the only shelter operated in Oceanside. So what Elizabeth's referring to, obviously, is rescue groups, our colleagues at SPOT, and other groups. We have probably about 200 animals currently at both Airport Road and San Luis Rey, and of those, probably 3/4 are available for adoption.
And how about San Diego?
For San Diego Humane?
Yes.
Probably close to 1,000 animals.
So my guess is what is being referred to on these puppies and kittens, it can't just be in people's homes where they're born and reared. So where are these that are being designated as in and around Oceanside? Where are they, those puppies and kittens?
Well, I mean, I don't, as Elizabeth said, we can verify that on Pet Finder. I haven't seen that number, but it does seem relatively high, but it could be through other rescue groups here, fosters for other rescue groups that are outside of Oceanside, but are housed here in Oceanside. That's a possibility.
Well, it seems pretty high to me too, and so I believe that it's probably covering a larger area. Thank you for coming forward.
Okay.
And I asked about business licenses. I think anybody that is a breeder should probably have a business license. I struggled with this. I served on the board of directors for Canine Companions for 9 years, and they have a tremendous breeding program, and the animals are beautiful animals. They are the class of all the animals, and occasionally they get a lemon, if you will, too. My family, almost all of my family has an animal. Some of them are just torn every time their animals are sick. I think what worries me the most is probably this for this ordinance is this the part about the exemption for local breeders. I applaud Mr. Salinas for trying to do something. Mr. Salinas, I don't really like. I haven't paid much. I don't think I've paid a couple $1,000s for a car in the last 80 years. So I'm not really sure how somebody buys an animal for that amount of money. Councilmember Sanchez said something about predatory practice. It reminds me of my first motorcycle in 1969 that I bought from Household Finance, and pretty much everybody knows, if you've got gray hair, and knows what Household Finance stands for. I've thought about this long and hard, and I can't support it unless the exemption is removed. So I don't want applause for anything. I can't support it with that in there. So.
Motion and second on the floor. We've addressed some of the issues below that. I'm going to stick with a voting majority on this particular area because I think it's important to all of us. With that, I'm sorry, let's please vote.
Motion approved, 3-2. Kern and Feller, no.
Half claps, half nods. Thank you very much for your time, your hospitality. One thing, it always can come back to us for changes. She instance. Thank you for your time and your effort. I know it's an important issue. With that, if you guys are...
Mayor, could we go back for 1 second? I do need to introduce the ordinance.
Excuse me.
We could do that real quickly.
Got to be introduced. I apologize.
Yeah, I apologize. Okay, okay, we're familiar with our own rules, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, the motion on the floor was to introduce the ordinance with the change to page 5 of the ordinance, section D1, line 18, to modify the word bred to born. And we're going to come back and look at that at adoption. But at this point, that change will be made with no other changes. The maker of the motion and the second agreed to both the original motion and that modification. So I have a title of the ordinance under our city code. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside, adding section 4.65 to chapter 4, article 1 of the Oceanside City Code to regulate the retail sale of dogs and cats. And if you could just please revote, then we will be done with this item.
Thank you. Please vote. Again. Yeah.
Motion approved, 3-2. Kern and Feller, no.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Like it or not, we have to move forward, still have items on the agenda. If you do go out and shut the doors, and we appreciate those other items we'll have to address tonight. No, she'll talk to you about, no, that's not correct. Anyhow, back to that. Take a few minutes for the city attorney. Take a 5-minute break, let people discuss it that aren't happy. Number one. Number two, Mr. Clerk, we have to start the 6 o'clock meeting here at 7:15. Well, this is the first time we've done this, so we'll see. We're going to just go back to the old time, 5 o'clock.
Well, we can always take items out of order.
After we do the invocation and pledge, can we, there's been 2 people who want to go on public communication and come here to the meeting. Can we bring that up after the invocation and pledge?
Here and do the pledge, the invocation, it's going to be a closed session. I don't think, well, we got one presentation.
Yeah.
After that, we're going to do
Would it be possible to take a public meeting Marjorie's presentation? They're a little bit agitated. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, I know. She's running for President of the United States. She's running for President of the United States. I don't understand exactly. It's a little confusing. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started with the council. If you want to speak about the thing that we did or didn't do, could you go out in the lobby? We'd appreciate that. We've got other things to do on the council agenda. We appreciate your comments, your input, and we can always bring this back. But anyhow, thank you very much. If I may, Chuck, you have your light on this? I mean, for someone in particular. Oh. Hey, you want to speak? Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, I noticed we're going to start the 6 o'clock meeting here at 7:15.
That's correct.
Interesting speakers, and I enjoyed every bit of it. Thank you. With that, could we go to Debbie to address some of this for us?
Please stand for the invocation and pledge. Tonight's invocation will be delivered by City Clerk Zach Beck, who is also the youth pastor for Gateway Community Church.
Please join me, bow your heads. Father, we come before you to simply say thank you. Thank you for the privilege, the blessing, the honor it is to live in the city of Oceanside. We come together as a diverse community, a community of different backgrounds, different beliefs, different presents, and different futures, but one common goal, and that is the betterment of this community. We continue to seek your guidance, wisdom, and discernment during the deliberations this evening, and in doing so, we lift up Councilmember Feller, Deputy Mayor Lowry, Mayor Wood, Councilmember Sanchez, and Councilmember Kern, and specifically we lift up Councilmember Sanchez's father right now, who's undergoing physical ailments, and would you just continue to give peace and comfort to her family during this process. In addition to that, we lift up those in France who encountered a terrible occurrence today, and we just ask for your peace and guidance through that process, and may justice and peace abound in that situation. And we just come here to simply say thank you, and we ask for all these things in your precious name. Amen.
Tonight's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by OPD Explorers Will Jester, Angel Canseco, and Michael Redmond.
First off, I want to thank everybody for the other comments on our item, but it backed us up quite a bit, but it needed to be done. I'm sorry, gentlemen, you were hanging around here some 6, so I apologize. Come on up here if you will. If you would.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic in which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Hold on. Please introduce yourselves. This is our future at Oceanside PD.
Michael Redmond. Hi, my name's Angel Conseca. My name is Will Jesser.
Thank you for the girls watching at home on TV. They look really good and sharp. They're all pressed. And thank you very much, ladies. Let's hear it for them. Thank you. They've been waiting for a long time.
The part of the month presentation will not be given tonight as Elkin Wills was unable to attend our meeting.
Okay. Before we go to the presentations, we're going to do public comment.
At this time, Larry Berry may come forward.
You've been waiting a while, I apologize, and thank you.
My name is Larry Berry. I live on 3973 Brown Street in the city of Oceanside. 32-year resident of Oceanside. And one of the things that I'm heavily invested in Oceanside. I have 3 properties, and I'm in another one out in Bonsall. And one of the things coming back from the 76 freeway, I noticed that with Caltrans, and it's a beautiful, it's already an award-winning, highway, and they're about to expand it all the way out to the 15. And I went and talked to the people at Caltrans, and they're saying stuff like that. There's going to be, a couple 100,000 people are going to be coming through there almost daily. And they're going to be coming right into Oceanside, all along the Oceanside corridor there. And, restaurants, Walmart, and all that kind of stuff, gasoline. So, but I noticed when we get to the exit of the city there, and I'm thinking about the same property, that there's pretty much nothing. There's one sign, and there's a traffic signal there and stuff, but there's one sign that just says Oceanside, elevation 83 feet, and 178,000 people or something like that. So I'm thinking, but I went and talked to the people, the engineers at Caltrans, and they say, well, you have to have certain signs. First of all, they say no, and then they say, okay, we'll work with you. They have to have what they call breakaway signs, and that's why they're all wood, so that cars hit it and stuff. But I'm looking at the same property there, and off to the side, and they already have a sign there for the tomato packing place there. And I thought something, and I have nothing to do with signs. I don't own a business about signs or anything like that. But I just thought it'd be really informative to tell people of, the travelers. And we always say, leave your money here as you leave and stuff. But if they could maybe get some signage that would say, welcome to Oceanside, stay at our shops and do, play at our beaches, go to our harbor, visit our parks and stuff like that. I think it would be a great thing, and maybe you can work on something like that, and it would be informative. And I'm surprised. And the other thing is, if somebody's already thought of this, then go ahead. But I think it would be really good for the city and for people paying the money here. I noticed that in doing this little so-called research, the monument that's over on Oceanside off the 5 freeway, they just started construction there, and I talked to the city workers there. They're ripping out all the lighting, and they're going to put some real high intense light there. We're all really proud about that. They say it's going to look like Las Vegas, where that monument that says Oceanside, it's right by Coco's there, across from the Flying Bridge. So they're going to, they're real. So, and Carlsbad and Sanitas, we've all seen these other places put up signs. And just just drop the seed for Oceanside that we have something to offer. Thank you.
Larry, I appreciate it. Are you talking to your chair about this? But I agree. The location is something that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Next, we have Lisa Lane.
Sorry to take you so long, but you can see it was one of those hot ones. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. This is my first time here speaking, and I was told I had 3 minutes, and I thought, wow, that's going to go by really fast, because I could talk for a long time. So I just wrote out on the paper here 3 things that I wanted to mention, and I thought each of them will take about a minute. And that's my card. This is my campaign card, which I asked Pastor, I didn't know you were a pastor till just then, to go ahead and pass out to you. And you can just keep that and look at it at your leisure some other time. Anybody who wants one is welcome to have one. It basically just says that I'm running for president in 2016. I went to school at UC Santa Barbara. I got a degree in global studies. I've worked in corporate sales, but that's beside the point. The first thing I want to mention is that I would like to figure out a way for the city to accumulate funding to provide more beds at psychiatric hospitals for the homeless. I've encountered many homeless people who are completely out of their minds, and I've tried to get the police to get them some kind of medical attention, and they've told me to my face that they're not going to because in their interpretation they're not going to kill anybody, they're not going to kill themselves, and I know from the paramedics and on that the truth is there's not enough beds in the psych hospitals. And I do want to say before I go further that I do believe that the agenda should go in order. Sorry, Mayor, but I was number 16. We were on number 24 for over 2 hours. That's offensive to me. It's a waste of my time. It was interesting to hear all of that pet story. I actually have number 4 on my card is about, I don't believe in pets at all, period. So I can relate. But anyway, I'm probably going to be on yellow in just 1 second, so I'll go on to the other part of number 1, which is dental for the homeless. It's really difficult to get a job, even if you can rehabilitate homeless people with food and shelters, but if you don't have any teeth, it's really difficult to get a job. So I want funding with either property taxes or taxes, more taxes on property, more taxes on alcohol. I did see the agenda for the next meeting regarding providing alcohol possibly in fast food restaurants. Alcohol causes a lot of homelessness. So that's the other issue, and also housing for homeless. I want a skyscraper somewhere in California. It doesn't have to be in Oceanside, somewhere for the homeless. Rehabilitative type housing. The second thing is, this is much lighter. The bathrooms and the trash cans in Oceanside are disgusting. And I would think you would agree. If you ever hang out or your family hangs out in Oceanside, I've lived here most of my life. I moved away for 15 years. You can see the yellow light. I to Santa Barbara where I went to school, and also LA where I live. And then I moved back about 2 years ago. I live here, and it's embarrassing to me to ever, well, for myself it's gross, and it's embarrassing to have family and friends, coworkers, neighbors, whatever, using the restrooms around here on the pier. I know my time's up. Last one is I would like an event at the stage for encouraging people to have a sober lifestyle. Something fun. Thank you.
Next we have Jimmy Knott.
Jimmy Knott, 127 Cherry Lane. First off, I wanted to take and wish everybody a pleasant and happy new year, council, staff, and all the community. And also, want to invite everybody to come over to the El Corazon Senior Center next Monday. We open the doors about noon, and we start the games, bingo games, once again at 12:30 p.m. And we're making it very affordable, between $3 and $6. So, and all the proceeds that come from that, aside from what the payouts are and for the cost of the materials, because our staff is totally volunteer, goes to the senior nutrition program. So it's serving the community. And I want to thank everybody who took and helped us along on that. With all, I know that all the council members heard plenty of things, and you all helped along in getting it restarted. And with Joan Durkee and myself being co-managers, and all the people are volunteering, and we need more volunteers, but again, you have to fill out the forms, and you have to go through all the clearances. Please take and do that as early as possible. Either see Joan Durkee, myself, or Sylvia Spears over at the Senior Center, over at the Country Club Senior Center. And thank you very much.
No further public on this item.
Thank you. Go to item number 15, City Attorney, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The council met in closed session earlier today to discuss item 1 on the closed session agenda, labor negotiations involving the Oceanside Police Officers Association. That matter was discussed and direction provided. There's no reportable action under the Brown Act. Item 2, conference with real estate negotiator. The council did discuss terms and conditions of a proposed property use agreement on the property located the portion of Haymar Drive right-of-way south of State Route 78. The agenda says 76. An agenda addendum was published timely to correct that to 78. West of College Boulevard, negotiating parties were City of Oceanside and CBS Outdoor. And again, that matter was discussed, but there is no reportable action under the Brown Act.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, while you're at item number 25, please.
Item 25 is the adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside amending Chapter 2, Article 1, Section 2.1.65 of the Oceanside City Code to make the deputy mayor position and mayoral appointment subject to council confirmation.
Thank you very much. Public on this?
Yes, at this time, Millie Palaferia may come forward.
Good evening.
We want to remind the council that the mayor was overwhelmingly voted back into office. Let's put him back at the helm where he can conduct the Oceanside City Council mayor duties, all of them. Thank you. Good night.
No further public on this item.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Deputy Mayor, excuse me. Councilmember Sanchez, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
You had your light on, that's what I said. Okay, a motion on this 25. I'll make a motion, and it's been read into records. Item 25, do I have a second? Thank you. Please vote. No.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yes, please vote.
Motion approved 4-1, Feller, no.
Thank you very much. And if I may, I think we'll get back to the items for the public hearings. It's 6 o'clock set. Okay, that's good. Item 18, if you would, please.
Item number 19? I'm so sorry, I didn't hear.
18.
18, okay. Yes, item number 18 is adoption of a resolution ordering the vacation of Black's Beach Street and a portion of the Windansea Street and direction to the city clerk to file a certified copy of the resolution with the county recorder upon the satisfaction of the conditions.
Thank you. As mayor, I'll open this public hearing and request disclosures from council members.
The staff and drove through the area.
Staff.
No contact.
Staff, some members from the public.
Staff only. Thank you. And with that, any correspondence petition?
None.
Thank you very much with that. Scott, good evening. Sorry we're late. Let's go ahead.
Good evening. That's fine. Honorable Mayor, council members, this is a short presentation. Simply a public hearing to vacate a portion of right-of-way, street vacation associated with the FedEx ground distribution facility. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I can get that.
We don't want it this long next time, okay?
They all should be that way, Scott.
Public?
This is a public hearing item. Larry, I know you put your name forward. You can come forward, Steve.
I'll be a little longer than that. My name is Larry Berry. I live on 3973 Brown Street in the city of Oceanside. I've been walking that area for about 3 years, walking the dogs, and there's about 50 of us there that walk around and been doing it, walking, doing the dogs, and it's good camaraderie and all the people there. And we do pick up our dog poop as well, so let you know that. But and there's model airplane guys that are doing flying their airplanes in the off-road cars and stuff. And And, you know, once in a while we'll get some people in that area that they'll go on their four-wheel in it and stuff, and we usually call the police and kick them out of there. But it's the Federal Express is going to be put on a 300,000 square foot building. There's 1,000 people. It's going to be a 24-hour operation. I think it's going to be great for the city. Like I said, 1,000 jobs, big trucks and stuff. I think Old Grove is going to be a real problem. I think the roads there are already in bad shape. There's potholes all on Old Grove and on College Boulevard. And so we're going to need to, in the same way on Avenue Gold or whatever it is by the post office there, the roads are really, they're cracked, and it's because of a lot of the construction. So my point is, I think the Federal Express, the design of the building has been done very well, because we're going to use native plants, drought-tolerant plants. They're also going to be what they call a line of sight, where the building is from the road, you're going to even hardly see it, even though it's going to be about 35 feet high, I guess, a three-story, basically conveyor belts inside and stuff like that. But the traffic, and it's going through, if they take Old Grove to the 76, it goes through a senior community there, and there's one stop still on the upside of Mesa going north, and it's a 55 and older community, and I think that's going to be the primary avenue. So I think our engineers are going to have to work, and our city maintenance are going to be there. But I think it's going to be a good project. Other than this, I know Daryl's not here. We had a fire in Oceanside this morning, and I was going to my men's group in the morning at about 5:30, and the Oceanside Fire Department did a great job with getting that hotel fire down, and took less than 20 minutes, I guess, to do it. So they did a great job. And the other thing I'll talk about is, and I'll talk to you later about this, is the property across is supposed to be luxury apartments going in where they're doing all that grading on Grove and College. And I've heard from the developer that they want to change their format because the industrial park is starting to, they didn't realize it was going to be the Federal Express building and then the sausage factory going in there along with Kaiser Hospital medical room there. So I talked to the city manager, and they're probably going to have to take that back to the planning if they do change their plans on that. Thank you.
This is a public hearing item. Any other members of the public who wish to speak on this item may come forward.
I see none. Mr. Clerk, I'll close the public hearing. Come back to the council, please. Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What is before is a resolution regarding the vacation of 2 streets, or I should say portions of 2 streets. And it is for the purposes of going forward on the FedEx project. We don't have the actual project before us, and all the issues that were raised by Mr. Berry, I'm sure we will be able to address at a later time, including the circulation plan, traffic circulation plan. So for the item before us, I'm going to go ahead and move adoption of the resolution. Thank you.
I'll second.
Couple of seconds, and Councilmember Feller, please.
There is some landscaping going in there along the road that is. Are we going to be maintaining that once this is turned over to the applicant?
Well, the road, Councilmember Dollar, the road that's being vacated, all of that will be developed, and then, as typical, the public right-of-way landscaping, there will be portions that we maintain, and I'd have to check the resolution specifically to see if there's provisions for them to take care of some of it too.
And as far as Larry, not all those pet owners are picking up their what I was referring to as responsible pet owners earlier. So. Anyway, thank you.
Councilmember Crane, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to kind of touch on what Mr. Berry said. The next process, it'll be a public hearing when this comes forward, And part of that will be the transportation plan of where they're going, when they're going to drive, and where they're going to drive. So hopefully we can avoid Old Grove, but we'll bring them down to College. Rancho de Oro is not much better, because it's going by the high school. But somehow we're going to have to figure out how to get them in and out of there. But that'll be part of the hearing when they finally have plans and times of operation. So that will be addressed.
Seeing no other lights, with that, please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, if we could, my fault, I forgot about a presentation item. Could we go and have a presentation on Holiday Book Drive, and Director Marjorie Pierce has presented it. I apologize, Marjorie got sidetracked with everybody else.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. I just wanted to let you know that the City of Oceanside once again had a very successful book drive for the children that participate in the after-school programs in our lower-income neighborhoods. Housing Authority directors across the nation have made this a priority in helping low-income children read, knowing that reading is essential to them getting off of welfare and other programs. 61% of low-income families have no books in their homes for their children. 2/3 of the students who cannot read proficiently by the end of 4th grade will end up in jail or on welfare. 85% of all juveniles who interface with the juvenile court system are functionally illiterate, proving that there is a close relationship between illiteracy and crime. This year we delivered over 230 books to the after-school programs at Libby Lake, Crown Heights, and Eastside. And I did want to recognize the people that contributed publicly to this book drive, which included the various associations of the employees of the City of Oceanside, including MECO, OFA, OFCA, and we have been told that we will be getting money from OCEA, OPOA, and OPMA. So we want to thank them publicly for their contribution, as well as to National Core Renaissance, Community Housing Works, individual contributions from Mary Jean Jagodinsky and Tim and Ann Gunter, and also the Lightfoot Planning Group. And without them, we wouldn't be able to provide this, and it's such a critical need in our low-income neighborhoods. So this is the second year that we decided not to do toys and to actually promote reading at the resource centers. And I thank you very much. And I have each of the children that received a book received it in a book bag, and I've brought each of you a book bag.
Thank you very much, Marjorie. Appreciate it. Thank you, Marjorie. I appreciate that. Yeah, you gotta keep them for yourself, aren't you? I can tell. With that, I'm sorry, item 19.
Item 19 is going to be heard at a future meeting. Item number 19 is going to be heard at a future meeting. Continue.
I didn't know that. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm sorry. Well, no, I didn't. I'm preoccupied. No, I didn't. I'll let you guys read it. And with that, items 20 to 23 are Councilwoman Sanchez's items, so she'll read it and be the last speaker on it, and we can vote on each one separately if you would. And with that, item 21, Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First one, item 20, is a request for a priority workshop and I was hoping it would be January, but it is moving pretty quickly, so I'm going to be asking that it be the Wednesday that we have available in February, which is the 11th. February 11th? So we do have a new council member on board, and would think it's be really critical to have a priority workshop and really get a focus on what we hope to accomplish this year and the following years. So it's my motion that we do that.
Thank you.
Workshop.
You want to go vote on that, or just have the city manager arrange it? on item 20.
It's Coastal Commission that day, aren't you going to that?
11th?
That was, I'm sure, meant to be
Yeah.
funny, but other than that, do you want us to vote on it, or you just have it?
So can we just go ahead and do that?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't think we have
I'll second
anything
that.
on the 11th in February.
I'll second the item and go forward, and there's any other discussion, put your lights. If not, on that particular date,
Sounds like
okay with
everybody's
you,
together.
everybody else, okay?
I have a question. It's pretty vague. Priority workshop of, is it budget? Is it streets? What is your?
Well, we had a priority workshop last year. It's time to do it again. I think, do you understand, Mr.?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a couple of questions
That's
for you,
fine.
if I could follow up.
Okay,
Do you have a place in mind that
here.
here in the council chamber?
I think so.
Okay,
Makes it easier for people to
Sure.
come.
very good. Michelle Lawrence, do we have a time we normally, would you like to have this in the morning? We've generally had them in the morning, and they've run, 2 to 3 hours. A lot of the workshops you have are in the afternoon. Is there a preference on the council?
Anytime.
I have no preference. I mean, that's,
I don't know if
Only
there's,
in the afternoon. No. I'm just trying to find common time.
Anytime's okay with me, too.
All right. We'll have it around noon. We'll serve a light lunch and go into the priority setting workshop.
Sounds
Okay?
good. Sounds good.
Very good. Right here.
We haven't voted. Do you want it to be a vote?
well, I didn't want to vote on the, lunch.
You're signed up. You're signed up.
Okay.
Okay.
But
My first joke in several weeks.
usually when we've had these, there's some direction as to what you want to cover. Is it everything or?
Yeah.
That would be, yes.
We'll find out.
We did everything last year. I think we can do it again.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
quick question. Last year we had a facilitated workshop. Are you looking for a facilitated workshop this time?
Well, I'm not looking for the same facilitator.
We hope not.
That it's nice to have somebody that doesn't have a stake in the outcome facilitate it. Maybe Jeff could facilitate it. He doesn't have a stake in the outcome. He's pretty new. We will find somebody to facilitate it. It'll be fine.
Okay.
That list the last time, skip that number 1 and go to at least 2, okay?
So are we voting on this? We just gave direction.
So you got it.
Okay.
Item 21,
Thank you.
Councilmember.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am anticipating that we have a lot of goals that we want to reach, especially those that have money attached to them. Just about everything that we do does have some kind of money attached to them. And so, in doing that, it's a challenge, I believe, it's a challenge that we have to make sure that every single thing that we do is going towards that goal. So for me, I think what we need to do is go back to the $25,000 limit for the city manager's office. I really want I really want to know where the money is going. I feel like things are happening that I'm not really sure, why it's happening. So for me, I feel more warm and fuzzy if that limit is backed to the $25,000. We did that. I'm not sure why we went up beyond that. So that's my motion to make it back to the $25,000.
Thank you. I'll second that. But first off, is there any public on any of these? I forgot to ask.
On this item, no, there's no public.
Okay, thank you very much. With that,
Can I ask a question?
certainly, Kevin.
I think what you're referring to is in the City Code, Chapter 28. The authority is at $50,000 for acquisition. Is it your intent? We have a separate resolution establishing the settlement authority for risk management matters and litigated cases where the city manager has 50, I have 35. is your intent to leave that resolution alone and just, because we'll have to do a code amendment to reduce it from 50 to 25?
Right, no, not
Yeah.
litigation. I think that on the litigation stuff, we usually are very much part of that, and it's something that at the moment, you probably need that kind of authority to be able to settle the cases. No, I'm talking about the acquisition.
Okay, so that would probably require a code amendment that we bring back forward to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Jepson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to bring it, I don't have an issue with this one way or the other. It just means that there'll be more things on the consent calendar. And if it keeps you more informed, that's fine. The department head authority's $25,000, is it not? I don't know, what differences it make. If you want to lower it for the city manager, do you want to lower it for department heads, or just want to leave it at $25,000 across the board? In which case, they don't need to ask me anything. That's okay. That'll save me some time too. So I don't know if you have a position on that. I'm not exactly sure what you're trying to accomplish here, but I don't have a huge problem with it.
Yeah, I just want to go back to where it was, and I don't think we had a change. We didn't have a change on the department head authority, as far as I understand.
What did you
Does anybody know what?
know what it used to be and when it was changed and why it was changed?
I did a code, I'm sorry.
We did some code amendments to Chapter 28 right when I got here, but it was 50 for the city manager even at that time, and 25 for department heads. So it must have been at some point prior to '06.
Thank you. Mr. Kern?
Yeah, it was, that,
35 for Peter White.
it's not quite clear why we're doing it. I mean, we're talking when you have a $130 million budget, give or take a few million, $50,000, you're talking about less than 0.2% of the budget. I'm just not clear why we're doing this, and what would be the impact? I mean, the idea, are we going to delay something that needs to be done? We have to put agendize on the council and bring it, a month later to get it agendized and a staff report to do that. Because I know most of the time, like in closed session, we'll authorize a settlement amount in closed session up to a certain point, based on the city attorney's recommendation that the city manager can sign off on. And sometimes that's 50,000, sometimes that might be a little more depending on what the issue is. But, and I think that'll probably stay in place because that'll be something we vote on to authorize that amount of money. But I'm not quite clear why we're doing it.
Well, in the same time period, we've had a rise in the amount of money being spent. And I have some goals, things that I would like to accomplish, and I'm sure other council members do too. I believe that we need to know where the money's going. I still don't know why, in the same time period, we seem to be spending more money out of the city manager's office than, say, under Peter White's time as the city manager. So this is one way that I believe we'll be able to get hold of our finances, and perhaps it's because I don't have the warm and fuzzies, in terms of what is going on. Perhaps after a year or whatever, I might feel differently, but at this point, I think this is very critical.
No, that's fine. If $25,000 gives Councilmember Sanchez a warm, fuzzy feeling, that's fine. I just wanted to see how it affects us operationally. The idea that how efficient, do we give this up for efficiency-wise? It seems like the city manager's okay with it. But
I don't think Peter Weiss was any less efficient. So, and he was able to do it with the $25,000 authority, and I believe you guys did that too. That was a motion that was made by this council or by a previous council. So, it went up for Mr. Jepson. I understand that, and
Didn't go up for me. It was 50,000 when I got here, and I don't know when it was changed, council member.
Right.
I do know how it's used, though. It wouldn't make any difference to the city manager's office, but the city attorney's correct. There are some things that we need to get early settlement on with regard to liability issues, and so that would need to stay in place, I believe. I would encourage you to leave that in place. With regard to the limitation on the manager, typically what happens is where it gets utilized is in unanticipated capital projects. I use it mostly for water utilities and public works. Other than that, most of the stuff is planned expenditures. They come through the budget process. The budget has everything laid out for the entire year for you. You're part of that review process and approval process. Like I said, it's not going to make any difference to me one way or the other, but all of the expenditures are approved by the City Council as part of the budget process. So if there's one particular issue or something that you're concerned about, I'm happy to address that with you directly, Councilmember.
Mr. Feller?
Thank you. I think it will create a lot more on the agenda, but the 50,000 has been in place for, well, I know at least since John got here, probably 06, yeah. So that's eight years. So it's not anything new. And how many times have you used that in the last year?
Not a lot, maybe a dozen times. I used it today for utilities expenditure for $31,000.
Michelle, are you aware of any of the past uses? Please.
Councilmember Feller, I'm sorry, I was talking to Scott. I didn't hear your question.
The question is, in the past, before Mr. Jepson arrived back here, how often was the city manager's discretionary $50,000 used?
It was fairly infrequent for those things that hadn't already gone to council for approval.
I mean, is a dozen times a year?
That's probably fair.
Yeah. So it's not really anything new, and what we're asking is for more longer agendas, just because if you had spent time here and asked questions here, you'd understand some of the stuff, Councilmember Sanchez. So I don't support making that change. There's nothing being hidden, and emergency type uses are very critical and need to be handled immediately. And 50,000 is not very much money.
Mr. Carter? I just had a quick question. The city manager should have used it today. If that exceeded his authority, if it was back to 25,000, and say he wrote in the claim or whatever thing that we had to spend was 40,000, what would have happened? Would we say, okay, we got to stop, we got to put that on the agenda, bring it back in 2 weeks, let it hang out there for 2 weeks to get things done? That's my concern. It's not the agenda. I mean, because most of this stuff's going to come through on the consent calendar, and it's going to be all voted all at once. I'm a little leery of generating another staff report. So now we're talking about extra costs. But so, could you tell me what the process would have been if we have a $35,000 expense and it exceeds your $25,000 limit?
Well, Councilmember Kern, I believe that if all the department directors know that there is no opportunity for them to exceed the $25,000 limit they have, that they would have to find a way to make it fall within that $25,000 limit. And if it's an emergency need, obviously it'd be a problem. I don't know how many emergencies we have that fall between $25,000 and $50,000, though. Usually they're pretty substantial. They would have to do some advanced planning if it was a capital expenditure to make sure that it either fell under their limitation or they were making the appropriate request far enough in advance.
Okay.
That's all.
I think I agree with Councilmember Feller. I don't see a need to change this.
Thank you. Memorial Life, please vote.
Yes.
There was a motion in a second.
Motion approved, 3-2, Kernan Feller, no.
Thank you very much. Councilman Sanchez, we're on item 22, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We also at one time had the 1,500 feet public notice requirement for all projects. I have been contacted by a couple of people regarding smaller permits for homeowners that perhaps should stay at 500 feet. So this is direction. This would be direction to staff to come back with some alternatives. The 1,500 feet public notice requirement absolutely for the larger projects, and for the like smaller projects like the the smaller homeowner type permits, keep it at 500 feet.
I'll second that too, but I wanted to bring up this is what you just answered. I didn't want to have somebody want to do some repairs to their house.
Right,
for
exactly.
The cost involved with everything else. So I don't know if 500 or 300 for individual small projects. I agree with you on the big projects when it was 300 feet. A lot of people didn't know about it, and then we got them on the 11th today on the 11th hour complaining because they didn't know about it. So I agree to that, but is that something you're going to refer to staff to come back on both of those? Okay, thank you. And with that, public?
No public on
Bring it back to us. Councilmember Feller, please.
The notification increasing from 500 or 300 feet to 1,000 or 1,500 feet is, probably in the vicinity of a 1,000% increase in notification just in that radius. And this is, I feel like punishment. So I'm glad to hear that, somebody who wants to put a patio deck or add-on in their house doesn't have to, maybe go to that expense for, if that is the case, if that's what you're referring to. I mean, because people that are trying to upgrade their house, homeowners have a tough time as it is. Those of us that are homeowners would resent that for sure. Thank you.
Councilmember Craig.
I don't see any need to change this. If anybody in the city would like to know what projects are going on, they do a sign up with the planning department and they're notified by email of what projects are happening. Right now you're talking, going from 282,000 square feet of notification to 7,087,000 square feet of notification, 870,000. So you're talking going up to almost 170 acres of notification versus 300 acres, which are probably less than 5. And I guess it's scalable of the project. Usually all the big projects we notified, and the problem is the notification, that the homeowners have to pay for that. And I can't see where a public benefit is derived by something that we've been doing for the last few years, and I've never had anybody complain about the limits of that, because most of the people that are very active as far as monitoring what projects happen actually know about the projects because they get notified by the planning department. It's on their, the website's there, and there's an email list for people that are interested. So, to me, it's the cost. The idea that you have even a homeowner to a small project from 300 to 500 feet can be quite expensive. And if it goes through the process, you have maybe, an administrative hearing, notification. If it gets appealed, it goes to planning commission, you have to re-notify. If it gets appealed out of the planning commission, and comes to council, I have to notify again. So that's 3 times I have to send out those notifications.
So I don't think there's any need to change it. I'm just trying to fathom why we need to change it, because I think it's been working very effectively.
Well, first of all, I have gotten a lot of complaints about this, and I think that the costs are actually higher because we don't have that notification. That's more standard than what this change. We had 1,500 feet, and it was dropped down to 300, and I thought that was very, very unfair. It was not. We were not being transparent. It was something that. It was very difficult for people, our residents, to keep up with these projects and not know about them. So coming on board at a later time in the process wastes a lot of time for the developer and people and the proponents of projects, and it's much more costly to have that kind of public input at a later time, more towards the end of the project. So having that input at the beginning of the project makes a lot of sense for both parties, those that are building a project and those that are very, very much interested in what is happening in their community, because they have also an investment in their community, one that has been probably much more long-standing, and they ought to know what's going on in the community. So I am the 300 for the smaller projects, the 1,500 for the other projects. That sounds fair.
Just a quick question, are we talking dollar amount, square footage amount? What are we talking about?
Well, she pretty well explained it directly to the staff. With Councilman Feller, please. And then I have you down, Mr. Lowy.
So how, during this time that it was 300 feet, how did people find out about it? I mean, there's only about, in the planning department, well, I'm sorry to ask Jeff, but pretty new. How many people are on our list to call for or notify of building going on anywhere in the city? Because most of the people that care that much care about wherever it is all over the city, not just 1,500 feet around them.
Mayor and council members, the procedures right now is on a project-specific basis. The 300 foot is a radius from the property area, so every property owner and occupant of a property within that 300 feet receives notice of the pending decision. There's also an interested parties list which we maintain. I believe it has 12, maybe a few more, approximately 12 people on that, organizations, etc. We also post notice on the city's website. We also put a legal ad in the paper. So there's various venues in which people can receive notice.
So there's 12 people interested in every project we do, essentially.
It's a global list. We call it interested parties. They want to receive notice on virtually every item that goes that requires notice.
Well then, I mean I've never had anybody call me and say, well, we didn't know about it. So, and I've been doing this 14 years, so I think that is probably an adequate way to handle the process with the 300 foot radius. It does handle an awful lot of people that are within proximity of the project, for sure. Thank you.
Council Deputy Mayor Lowy.
I've got a question for you also. Can you describe how much work would be involved to send out these notices if it's changed to 1,500 feet? How much work and maybe a budget for that? Any kind of idea? Or would I just defer that to the city manager?
The applicant's cost.
The applicant pays for that.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor and council member, there is some additional work for staff. We have to send out the notice. It does take some staff time. We have to compile a copy of it. It is, there are some differences, of course. This is what we did an example of 1,500. You can see the thickness, and this is an example of 300. I'm not sure what the costs are regarding that, or whether it's large or significant or not, but there would be an added cost.
And this would be on top of the permit costs that, for a project, if someone wants to do a bathroom remodel or an addition to their home or whatever.
Well, a lot of those wouldn't require a notice anyways, the smaller projects.
Okay.
But
Well,
we
maybe a
could-
house 4 doors away from me that's being demoed and they call it a remodel, that would be noticed.
It would depend on the circumstances, and we could come back as directed to give you some examples and some alternatives.
I'd like to hear some more about this before moving it forward, but I'm willing to look at it, spend some of my time seeing what that all means. Because Lord knows I got plenty of time. I think if we can gather some information about this and get an idea of what it costs. I mean, I have a project in my neighborhood that's a house and it's literally 4 doors away and across the street. And it's such a huge, obnoxious project that I would have liked to have been noticed in advance of it. I don't know why I wasn't, but I'm probably outside the 300-foot range.
Chuck, it's basically postage.
Postage
Yeah.
and printing and the labor associated.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I do some homework on it? We can bring it back again.
Yeah.
I would like to do that.
Here's your answer right there.
Councilman Kern.
No, I just, a couple things. When we changed this, years ago,
2 years ago, right?
we did?
Wasn't it 2 years ago?
Oh, no, it's longer than that, I thought.
Oh, when Celine came in,
I think
4 years ago.
Four years ago. We did 2 things. One, we actually did change it from just the homeowners to the homeowners and the occupant. So there was a complaint about renters not being notified of a project in their neighborhood because they live there and the owners are out of town, out of state. The owners get notification and the person that actually lives there wasn't getting notification. So we changed it to occupant and owners. And the other one that we leveraged the IT, we leveraged the technology, and that was the reason that we had the interested parties list and put it on the website and those type of things, and the sign that put out. So hopefully, Deputy Mayor, you saw a yellow sign out in front of that house before they started doing anything, because that's required no matter what size, even if it's very small. So let the public know, be aware of as they're driving by that obviously, probably if they post the sign, they may hit it or whatever. But that's something that not only do we put that sign out there, we put the planner's name to contact at the city, who the planner is assigned to that project. So you can call that planner to find out. So a lot of those things came about because of technology and the ability to put it on the web and the ability to send emails out and notifications. So to lower the cost of doing a project, I understand if there's some real public benefit to this, but to add cost to a project where there's no perceived public benefit, just to do it, I just can't support that idea. So that's my input to staff. I don't know if we're going to go to a vote on this or we're just going to give direction to staff, but that would be my objection to it.
Well, I'm going to jump in and say the distance, 1,200, 1,500, one was for big projects and commercial projects and industrial projects. And over the years, I did get complaints, as she said, about people not knowing about it until it's too late. When they get too late, it causes a problem for the developer as much as the city. Why didn't I know about this? And you guys moved it down to 300 feet, and people were complaining they didn't know about things that were happening nearby in their area. That's why it is. It's for commercial businesses. They're going to be big and a big impact on a neighborhood. You talk about a 300-foot circle around a potential project that's going to be commercial, and sometimes big ones, neighborhoods don't know about it.
Right.
And I have a problem with that. You're the ones that lowered it down. The other thing is Mr. Feller and you and everybody else were on the council when these numbers were always there. Only the recent former council made it back down to 300. And we've had complaints from people. Maybe nobody calls Feller for a reason, but I've got the calls, and I know she has, regarding projects. I think we're trying to put it in a situation where if there's something that's going to be impacting a community or a neighborhood, we want to know about it early, not at the end for the last council meeting, they all show up. And that causes a big cost to everybody, including the developer, and they get there late. They're into their drawings, they're into their plans and everything else. And then finally, they come in and complain to the council.
because they didn't know about it. Now, I think that's a cost to the developer and the person that's doing it. For their stamps, to send them out or whatever is inexpensive compared to delays later down the road. That's why it's been on the books forever at a larger area or number out there. Now, people always say you can get it on the computer or web. Generally, a lot of seniors don't have their own computer, and we don't have a North County newspaper that most people read, so they don't know about it. I think that's why she's putting it on. Whatever, that's my 2 cents, and if Mr. Lowry leads more town, that's his understanding. I'm finished. Go back to Council Member Sanchez.
Yeah, I just want to say one other thing. This became a really big issue during the cement plant Loma Alta issue, where when you have only 300 feet, that might be just the street across the street. It may not even reach across the street. So a lot of people didn't know. The council, in its wisdom, said, you know what, we want to be transparent. And that included, I believe, Councilmember Chavez was on the council who actually pushed the 1,500 feet. I think we started off at 1,000. He said, you know what, we should do the right thing, and it should be 1,500 feet. So the reason why this was changed has nothing to do with technology. It has to do with the fact that we had a majority council that does not want the public to know what's going on in the neighborhood. They want to jam these projects through. Now, I understand that Councilmember Kern can say whatever he wants to say, but bottom line is, I've had a lot of complaints, the mayor's had a lot of complaints, and it's time to restore what we had before, and that is, it took some time to get there. We had transparency. And that's what the people want. They want to know whether they end up agreeing with what our decision is. At the very least, they are due process and the right to know.
If I may, I don't want to interrupt anybody here per se, and I don't want to get in an argument with any of the council. We're trying to resolve some of this stuff. It's an item on the agenda. If you want to continue to have staff come back, that's fine, or we can just vote on it. But let's go that route. It's getting late. You're the motion maker, I second it, but you want to have it for a vote or come back to staff and come back to us. Give him more time to look at it. It's your call.
Do you want more time?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it? Okay, we'll bring it back. Other than that, item 23, that's to you, Councilman Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe it was 2 years ago that the staff brought to us for consideration direction regarding our circulation element. And we were given a choice, I believe it was A, B, C, or maybe 1, 2, 3, with really 2 of them that where staff wanted to know which direction the council wanted to go. And one of them had to do with having on there the Melrose extension and the Paula Road extension and some other matters that were pretty much had a lot of public opposition. And the other one had to do with, going ahead and deleting those items. So I would like staff to bring that back to us to revisit what we decided there. I think that we have some things that have happened that have been very negative, having to do with, for example, the Melrose the Rancho de Oro interchange, which I believe was a major reason why we had all of that impact onto Oceanside residents on the Carlsbad side for that project in Carlsbad. So it was a staff report, and I wish that I had a chance to find that report, but it's very clearly delineated 2 directions, and I'd like us to revisit that. So my request is that we bring that decision back and relook at that.
I'll second that. Thank you very much. And public on this?
No public on this.
Thank you. Back to the council. Anybody? That's staff for bringing it back, and we can vote then. But does anybody have any other comments? I see none. Thank you very much. I think the city manager understands that. And I would ask the city clerk, have we covered everything? It's a long night, and
Quickly, are we not voting on? Are we?
I don't know. I think she was direction to staff. We don't want to vote on it.
I think I'd be good to vote on that.
Yeah.
Bring it back.
To voting to change the circulation.
Look at it again.
Can I?
Sure, go ahead.
Nice. the decisions that Councilmember Sanchez was talking about were the alternatives in the circulation element. So those, I think what you're asking for is for that document to be brought back. There was an EIR for that project as well, so that will have to accompany it, to revisit those decisions if that's your policy decision. Okay.
On the vote on that, please. Vote.
Motion approved, 3-2, Kern and Feller now.
After that, have I covered everything?
Yes, everything.
Very much. With that, ladies and gentlemen, long night. And this is the first time we've tried these hours, and I think the item on the puppy mill took up a lot of time, which we probably won't get again. But I'm willing to have any hours that are acceptable for any and all of you, so keep that in mind. If you like this, fine. If not, we might have to address it again. The other thing, if I adjourn this meeting, we're going to adjourn to Mayor Council Workshop 2 p.m. on Wednesday, January the 14th, regarding a review of zoning ordinances position, alcohol sales, and all restaurants, including fast food establishment. And that's it. We'll adjourn. Thank you for your time. Good night. Be safe.